When the high-souled Partha went to Indra region for obtaining weapons, what did Yudhishthira and the other sons of Pandu do? When the high-souled Partha went to Indra region for obtaining weapons, those bulls of the Mahbharata race continued to dwell with Krishna in Kamyaka. One day, those foremost of the Mahbharatas, afflicted with grief, were seated with Krishna on a clean and solitary sward, grieving for the Dhananjaya, overwhelmed with sorrow. Their voices were shocked with weeping. Tortured by the Dhananjaya absence, grief afflicted them equally. And filled with sorrow at their separation from Arjuna and at the loss of their kingdom, the might-armed Bhishma among them addressed Yudhishthira, saying, "That bull of the Mahbharata race, Arjuna, on whom depend the lives of Pandu's sons, and on whose death the Panchalas, as also ourselves with our sons, and Satyaki and Vasudeva are sure to die, have gone away at thy behest." What can be said there than this, that the virtues Vivihatsu have gone away at thy command, thinking of his many griefs? Depending upon the might of that illustrious hero's arms, regard our foes as already vanquished in battle, and the whole earth itself as already acquired by us. It was for the sake of that mighty warrior that I refrained from sending to the other world all the Dhartahastras, along with the Suvalas, in the midst of the assembly, gifted with might of arms and supported by Vasudeva. We have to suppress the wrath that hath been housed in us, because thou art the root of that wrath. In thee, with Krishna's help, slaying our foes, headed by Karna, we are able to rule the entire earth, conquered by our own arms. And with manliness, we are yet overwhelmed with calamities in consequence of thy gambling vice, while the foolish sons of Dhritarashtra are growing stronger with the tribute. It behoveth thee to keep in view the duties of the Kshatriya. It is not the duty of a Kshatriya to live in the woods. The wise are of the opinion that to rule is the foremost duty of a Kshatriya. Thou art conversant with Kshatriya morality. Do not, therefore, deviate from the path of duty. Turning away from the woods, let us, summoning Partha and Janardana, slay the sons of Dhritarashtra, even before the 12 years are complete. Even if these Dhartahastras be surrounded by soldiers in array of battle, I shall send them to the other world by dint of might alone. I shall slay all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with the Sauvalas, in thee, Duryodhana, Karna, and anyone else that will fight with me. And after I shall have slain all our foes, thou mayest come back unto the woods. By acting thus, no fault will be thine. Washing it off by various sacrifices, we may ascend to a superior heaven. Such a consummation may come to pass, if our king proveth not unwise or procrastinating. Thou art, however, virtuous. Verily the deceitful should be destroyed by deceit. To slay the deceitful by deceit is not regarded as sinful. It is said by those versed in morality that on day and night is equal unto a full year. The Veda text exalted on is often heard, signifying that a year is equivalent to a day when passed in the observance of certain difficult vows. If the Vedas are an authority with thee, regard thou the period of a day and something more as the equivalent of 13 years. This is the time to slay Duryodhana with his adherents, else he will beforehand bring the whole earth obedient to his will. All this is the result of thy addiction to gambling. We are on the verge of destruction already in consequence of thy promise of living on earth undiscovered. I do not find the country where, if we leave, the wicked-minded Suryodhana may not be able to trace us by his spies. In finding us out, the wretch will again deceitful send us into such exile in the woods. If that sinful one beholdeth us emerge after the expiring of the pledged period of non-discovery, he will again invite thee to dice, and the play will once more begin. Summoned once more, thou wilt again efface thyself at dice. Thou art not skilled at dice, and when summoned at play, thou wilt be deprived of thy senses. Therefore, thou wilt have to lead a life in the woods again. If it behoveth thee not to make us wretched for life, observe thou full the ordinance of the Vedas. Verily the deceitful ought to be slain by deceit. If I have thy command, I won't go. And even as fire falling upon a heap of grass consumeth it, won't slay Duryodhana, putting forth my utmost might. It behoveth thee, therefore, to grant me the permission. Thus addressed by Bhishma, King Yudhishthira the just smelt the crown of that son of Pandu, and pacifying him said, Without doubt, thou wilt, assisted by the wielder of the Gandiva, slay Suryodhana at the expiry of the 13th year. As for thy exertion, the time is complete. I cannot dare tell an untruth, for untruth is not in me. Without the help of fraud, wilt thou kill the wicked and irreprehensible Duryodhana with his allies? While Yudhishthira the just was speaking unto Bhishma thus, there came the great and illustrious Rishi Vrihadasva before them, and beholding that virtuous ascetic before him, the righteous king worshipped him according to the ordinance with the offerings of Madhuparka. And when the ascetic was seated and refreshed, the might-armed Yudhishthira sat by him, and looking up at the former, addressed him thus in exceedingly piteous accents. Summoned by cunning gamblers, skilled at dice, I have been deprived of wealth and kingdom through gambling. I am not an adept at dice, and I am unacquainted with deceit. Sinful men by unfair means vanquished me at play. They even brought into the public assembly my wife, dearer unto me than life itself, and defeating me a second time, they have sent me to distressful exile in this great forest, clad in deer skins. At present I am leading a distressful life in the woods, in grief of heart. Those harsh and cruel speeches they addressed me on the occasion of that gambling match, and the woes of my afflicted friends relating to the match at dice and other subjects are all stored up in my remembrance. Recollecting them, I passed the whole night in anxiety, deprived of the illustrious elder of the Gandiva, on whom depend the lives of us all. I am almost deprived of life. When shall I see the sweet-speeched and large-hearted Vibhihatsu, full of kindness and activity, return to us, having obtained our weapons? Is there a king on this earth who is more unfortunate than myself? Hast thou ever seen or heard of any such before? To my thinking, there is no man more wretched than I am. Vrihadasva said, Thou sayest, there is no person more miserable than I am. If thou wilt listen, I will relate unto thee the history of a king more wretched than thyself. And thereupon the king said unto the ascetic, Tell me, I desire to hear the history of the king who had fallen into such a condition. Listen attentively with thy brothers, I will narrate the history of a prince more miserably than thyself. There was a celebrated king among the Nishadihas, named Virasena. He had a son named Nala, vested in victory and wealth. It hath been heard by us that that king was deceitful, defeated by Puskara, and afflicted with calamity. He dwelt in the woods with his spouse, and while he was living in the forest, he had neither slaves nor cars, neither brothers nor friends with him. Thou art surrounded by thy heroic brothers like unto the celestials, and by foremost regenerate ones like unto Brahma himself. Therefore it behoveth thee not to grieve. Yudhishthira said, I am anxious to hear in detail, thou foremost of eloquent men, the history of the illustrious Nala. It behoveth thee, therefore, to relate it unto me. Vrihadasva said, there was a king named Nala, the son of Virasena, and he was strong and handsome and well versed in horses and possessed of every desirable accomplishment, and he was at the head of all the kings, even like the Lord of the Celestials, and exalted over all. He resembled the sun in glory, and he was the king of the Nishadihas, intent on the welfare of the Brahmanas, versed in the Vedas, and possessed of heroism. And he was truth-telling, fond of dice, and the master of a might arm. And he was the beloved of men and women, and of great soul and subdued passions. And he was the protector, and the foremost of bowmen, and like unto Manu himself. And like him there was among the Vidarbhas, Bhishma, of terrible prowess, heroic and well-disposed towards his subjects, and possessed of every virtue. He was childless, and with a fixed mind he tried his utmost for obtaining ensue, and there came unto him a Brahmasi named Damana, and desirous of having offspring, Bhishma, vested in morality, with his queen, gratified that illustrious wish by a respectful reception, and Damana, well pleased, granted unto the king and his consort a boon in the form of a Jew, of a doctor, and their sons possessed of lofty souls and great fame. Damayanti, and Dama, and Danta, and illustrious Damana, and the three sons were possessed of every accomplishment, and terrible mean and fierce prowess, and the slender-waisted Damayanti, in beauty and brightness, in good name and grace and luck, became celebrated all over the world. On her attaining to age, hundreds of handmaids and female slaves, decked in ornaments, waited upon her like Sakhi herself. And Bhishma, doctor of faultless virtues, decked in every ornament, shone in the midst of her handmaids like the luminous lightning of the clouds. And the large-eyed damsel was possessed of great beauty, like that of Sri herself. And neither among celestials, nor among Yakshas, nor among men was anybody possessed of such beauty, seen or heard of before. And the beautiful maiden filled with gladness the hearts of even the gods. And that tiger among men, Nala, had not his pair in the wars, for in beauty he was like Gandharva himself in his embodied form. And moved by admiration, the heralds again and again celebrated the praises of Nala before Damayanti, and those of Damayanti before the rulers of the Nishadihas. And repeatedly hearing of each other's virtues, they conceived an attachment towards each other not begot of sight, and that attachment began to grow in strength. And then Nala was unable to control the love that was in his bosom, and he began to pass much of his time in solitude in the gardens adjoining the inner apartment. And there he saw a number of swans punctured with golden wings wandering in those woods, and from among them he caught on with his hands, and thereupon the sky hanging on said unto Nala, Deserve are not to be slain by thee. I will do something that is agreeably to thee. I will speak of thee before Damayanti in such a way that she will not ever desire to have any other person. Thus addressed, the king liberated that swan, and those swans then rose on their wings and went to the country of the Vidarbhas. And on arriving at the seat of the Vidarbhas, the birds alighted before Damayanti, who beheld them all. And Damayanti, in the midst of her maids, beholding those birds of extraordinary appearance, was filled with delight, and strove without loss of time to catch those corsairs of the skies. And the swans at this, before that bevy of beauties, fled in all directions, and those maidens there pursued the birds each after another, and the swan after which Damayanti ran, having led her to a secluded spot, addressed her in human speech, saying, There is a king amongst the Nishadhas named Nala. He is equal unto the Aswings in beauty, not having his pair among men. Indeed, in comeliness he is like Kandarpa himself in his embodied form. If thou becomest his wife, thy existence and this thy beauty may be of purpose. We have, indeed, beheld celestials and Gandhirvas, and Nagas, and Rakshasas, and men. Never saw we before any one like Nala. Thou art a Jew among thy sex, as Nala is the prime among men. The union of the best with the best is happy. Thus addressed by the swan, Damayanti replied unto him there, saying, Do thou speak thus unto Nala, saying, So be it. To the doctor of the Vidarbha, the oviparous on, returned to the country of the Nishadhas, and related everything unto Nala. Hearing those words of the swan, Damayanti thenceforth lost all peace of mind on account of Nala, and having frequent sights, she was filled with anxiety, and became melancholy, and pale-faced, and lean, and with her heart possessed by the god of love. She soon lost color, and with her upturned gaze and modes of abstraction looked like one demented, and she lost all inclination for beds and seats and objects of enjoyment. And she ceased to lie down by day or night, always weeping with exclamation of awe and alas. And beholding her unease and falling into that condition, her handmaids represented the matter of her illness unto the ruler of Vidarbha by indirect hints. And King Bhishma, hearing of this from the handmaids of Damayanti, regarded the affair of his daughter to be serious, and he asked himself, Why is it that my daughter seemeth to be so ill now? And the king, reflecting by himself that his daughter had attained to puberty, concluded that Damayanti Svayamvara should take place, and the monarch, all the rulers of the earth, saying, Ye heroes, know that Damayanti Svayamvara is at hand. And all the kings, hearing of Damayanti Svayamvara, came unto Bhishma agreeably to his message, filling the earth with the clatter of their cars, the roar of their elephants, and the neighing of their horses, and accompanied with their fine-looking battalions, decked in ornaments and graceful garments. And the might-armed Bhishma paid due reverence those illustrious monarchs, and duly honored by him they took up their quarters there. And at the juncture Those foremost of celestial riches, possessed of great splendor, of great wisdom, and great vows, namely, Narada and Parvata, having arrived in course of their wanderings at the regions of Indra, entered the mansion of the Lord of the Immortals, receiving proper worship. And Maghabhat, having worshipped them reverently, inquired after their undisturbed peace and welfare as regards our respect. And Narada said, Peace attendeth us in every respect, and peace attendeth the kings of the whole world. Hearing the words of Narada, the slayer of Vala and Vritra said, Those righteous rulers of the earth who fight renouncing our desire of life, who meet death when their time is come by means of weapons, without flying from the field, there is this reason, everlasting unto them, and granting our desires, even as it is to me. Where be those Kshatriya heroes? I do not see those kings approach. Where are my favorite guests? Thus addressed by Sakra, Narada replied, Listen, why seest not thou the kings? The ruler of the Vidarbhas hath a daughter, the celebrated Damayanti. In beauty she transcendeth all the women of the earth. Her Sivayanvara will take place shortly. Thither are going out the kings and princes from all directions, and all the laws of the earth desire to have that pearl of the earth, desire to have her eagerly. And while they were taking those foremost of the immortals, the Lokapalas, with Agni among them, appeared before the Lord of the Celestials, and all of them heard the words of Narada, fraught with great import. And as soon as they heard them, they exclaimed in rapture, We also will go there. And accompanied by their attendants and mounted on their vehicles, they set out for the country of Vidarbhas, whither all the kings. And the high-souled King Nala, hearing of that concourse of kings, set out with a cheerful heart, full of Damayanti love, and that the gods saw Nala on the way trending on the earth, and his form, owing to its beauty, was like that of the god of love himself. And beholding him resplendent as the sun, the Lokapalas were filled with astonishment at his wealth of beauty, and abandoned their intention, and leaving their cars in the sky, the dwellers of heaven alighted from the welkin, and spake unto the ruler of the Nishadihas, saying, Thou art devoted to truth. Do thou help us. Be thou our messenger. Nala pledged his word to the celestials, saying, I will do it. And then, approaching these, he asked with folded hands, Who are ye, and who is he that desireth me to be his messenger? And what further shall I have to do for you? Tell me truly. When the king of the Nishadihas spoke thus, Maghabhat replied, saying, Know us as the immortals, come hither for Damayant's sake. I am Indra, this one is Agni, this the lord of waters, and this is even Yama, the destroyer of the bodies of men. Do thou inform Damayanti of our arrival, saying, The guardians of the wood, the great Indra and the others are coming to the assembly, desirous of beholding. The gods, Sakra and Agni and Varuna and Yama, desire to obtain thee. Do thou, therefore, choose one of them for thy lord. Thus addressed by Sakra, Nala said with joined hands, I have come here with the self-same object. It behoveth thee not to send me. How can a person who is himself under the influence of love bring himself to speak thus unto a lady on behalf of others? Therefore, spare me, ye gods. The gods, however, say it, having promised at first, saying, I will. Why wilt thou not act accordingly now? Tell us this without delay. Thus addressed, but those celestials, the ruler of Nishadihas, spake again, saying, those mansions are well guarded, how can I hope to enter them? Indra replied, thou shalt be able to enter, and saying, so be it. Nala thereupon went to the palace of Damayanti, and having arrived there, he beheld the daughter of the king of Vidarbha surrounded by her handmaids, blazing in beauty and excelling in symmetry of form, of limbs exceedingly delicate, of slender waist and fair eyes, and she seemed to book the light of the moon by her own splendor. And as he gazed on that lady of sweet smiles, Nala love increased. Desirous of keeping his truth, he suppressed his passion, and at the sight of Nishadha, overpowered by his effulgence, those first of women sprang up from their seats in amazement, and filled with wonder, they praised Nala in gladness of heart, and without saying anything, they mentally paid him homage. What beauty, what comeliness, what gentleness belongeth to this high-souled one? Who is he? Is he some god or Yakisha or Gandhirva? And those foremost of women, confounded by Nala, splendor and bashfulness, would not accost him at all in speech. And Damayanti, athwart, herself struck with amazement, smiling addressed the warlike Nala, who gently smiled at her, saying, what art thou that hast come here, awakening my love? I am anxious to know how thou art that hast come hither, and why hast thou come hither, and how is it that thou hast not been discovered by anyone, considering that my apartments are well guarded and the king's mandates are stern. Thus addressed, but the daughter of the king of the Vidarbhas, Nala replied, know that my name is Nala. I come here as the messenger of the gods, the celestials, Sakra, Agni, Varuna, and Yama desire to have thee. Do thou choose one of them for thy lord. It is through their power that I have entered here unperceived, and it is for this reason that none saw me on my way or obstructed my entrance. I have been sent by the foremost of the celestials even for this object. Hearing this, do what thou pleasest. Damayanti, having bowed down unto the gods, thus addressed Nala with a smile. Love me with proper regards, and commanded me what I shall do for thee. Myself and what else of wealth is mine are thine. Grant me thy love in full trust. The language of the swans is burning me. It is for thy sake that I have caused the kings to meet. If thou forsake me who adore thee, for thy sake will I resort to poison, or fire, or water, or the hope. Thus addressed by the daughter of the king of the Vidarbhas, Nala answered her, saying, with the Lokapalas present, choosest thou a man? Do thou turn thy heart to those high-souled lords, the creators of the worlds, unto the dust of whose feet I am not equal. Displeasing the gods, a mortal cometh by death. Save me. Choose thou the excelling celestials, by accepting the gods, do thou enjoy spotless robes and celestial garlands of variegated hues and excellent ornaments. What woman would not choose as her lord Hutasana, the chief of the Celestials, who compressing the earth swalloweth it. What woman would not choose him as her lord, the dread of whose mace induceth all creatures to tread the path of virtue? And what woman would not choose as her lord the virtuous and high-souled Mahendra, the lord of the celestials, the chastiser of deities and the Navas? If thou couldst choose in thy heart Varuna amongst the Lokapalas, do unhesitatingly accept this friendly advice. Thus trusted by Naishadha, Damayanti, with eyes bathed in tears of grief, spake thus unto Nala: Going to all the gods, I choose thee for my lord. Truly do I tell thee this. The king who had come as the messenger of the gods replied unto the trembling Damayanti, standing with folded hands: Do thou pleasest, having given my pledge unto the gods in special, how can I, having come on other mission, dare seek my own interest? If seeking my own interest consists with virtue, I will seek it, and do thou act accordingly. Then Damayanti, of luminous smiles, slowly spake unto King Nala in words choked with tears: Lord of men, I see a blameless way, by which no sin whatever will attach unto thee. Do thou come to the Sivayamvara in company with all the gods headed by Indra. There, in the presence of the Lokapalas, I will choose thee at which no blame will be thine. Thus addressed, but the doctor of Vidarbha, King Nala, returned to where the gods were staying together, and beholding him approach those great gods, the Lokapalas eagerly asked him about all that had happened, saying: Hast thou seen Damayanti of sweet smiles? What hath she said unto us all? Tell us everything. Nala answered: Commanded by you, I entered Damayanti palace, furnished with loft portals, guarded by veteran warders, bearing wands. And as I entered, no one perceived me, by virtue of your power, except the prince. And I saw her handmaids, and they saw me. And seeing me, they were filled with wonder. And as I spake unto her of you, the fair-faced maiden, her will fixed on me: Yea, best of the gods, choose me. And the maiden said: Let the gods come with thee to the Sivayamvara. I will in their presence choose thee. At this, no blame will attach to thee. This is all, ye gods, that took place, as I have said. Finally, everything rests with you, ye foremost of celestials. Then, at the sacred hour of the whole lunar day of the auspicious season, King Bhishma summoned the kings to the Sivayamvara, and hearing of it, all the laws of earth is met with love, speedily came thither, desirous of Damayanti, and the monarchs entered the amphitheatre, decorated with golden pillars, and of loft portal, arch, like mighty lions entering the mountain woods. And those lords of earth, decked with fragrant garlands and polished earrings, hung with jewels, seated themselves on their several seats. And that sacred assembly of kings, graced by those tigers among men, assembled the Bihogavati, swarming with the Nagas, or a mountain covered with tigers, and their arms were robust, and resembling iron maces, and well-shaped and graceful, and looking like five-headed snakes, and graced with beautiful locks, and thin noses, and eyes, and brows. The countenance of the kings shone like stars in the firmament, and Damayanti, of beauteous face, stealing the eyes and hearts of the prince by her dazzling light, entered the hall. and the glances of those illustrious kings were riveted to those parts of her person where they had chanced to fall first, without moving at all. And when the names of the monarchs were proclaimed, the doctor of Bhima saw 5 persons all alike in appearance, and beholding them seated there, without difference of any kind in form, doubt filled her mind, and she could not ascertain which of them was King Nala, and at whomsoever she looked, she regarded him to be the king of the Nishadihas. And filled with anxiety, the beauteous one talked within herself. How shall I distinguish the celestials, and how discern the royal Nala? And thinking thus, the doctor of Vidarbha became filled with grief, and recollecting the marks belonging to the celestials of which she had heard, she talked. Those attributes of the celestials of which I have heard from the aged do not pertain to any of these deities present here upon the earth. And revolving the matter long in her mind, and reflecting upon it repeatedly, she decided upon seeking the protection of the gods themselves, and bowing down unto them with mind and speech, with folded hands, she addressed them trembling. Since I heard the speech of the swans, I choose the king of the Nishadihas as my lord. For the sake of truth, let the gods reveal him to me, and as in thought or word, I have never swerved from him. For the sake of that truth, reveal him to me. And as the gods themselves have destined the ruler of the Nishadihas to be my lord, let them, for the sake of that truth, reveal him to me. And as it is for paying homage unto Nala that I have adopted his vow, for the sake of that truth, let the gods reveal him to me. Let the exalted guardians of the woods assume their own proper forms, so that I may know the righteous king. Hearing these piteous words of Damayanti, and ascertaining her fixed resolve and fervent love for the king of Nishadihas, the purity of her heart, and her inclination in regard and affection for Nala, the gods did as they had been adjured, and assumed their respective attributes as best they could. And thereupon she beheld the celestials unmoistened with perspiration, with winkless eyes and unfading garlands, unstained with dust, and staying without touching the ground. And Nishadha stood revealed to his shadow, his fading garlands, himself stained with dust and sweat, resting on the ground with winking eyes, and discerning the gods and the virtuous Nala, the doctor of Bhima, chose Nishadha according to her truth. And the large-eyed damsel, then bashful, cocked the hem of his garment, and placed round his neck a floral wreath of exceeding grace. And when that fair complexioned maiden had thus chosen Nala for her husband, the king suddenly broke out into exclamation of awe and alas, and the gods and the great rishis in wonder cried, excellent, applauding the king the while, and the royal son of Virasena, with heart filled with gladness, comforted the beauteous Damayanti, saying, since thou hast chosen a mortal in the presence of the celestials, know me for a husband even obedient to thy command. And truly do I tell thee this, that as long as life continueth in this body of mine, I will remain thine, and thine alone. Damayanti, with folded hands, paid homage unto Nala in words of like import, and the happy pair, beholding Agni and the other gods, mentally sought their protection. And after the doctor of Bhima had chosen Nishadha as her husband, the Lokapalas of exceeding effulgence, which pleased hearts, bestowed on Nala 8 buons, in Sakra, the lord of Sakhi, bestowed on Nala the one that he should be able to behold his godship in sacrifice, and that he should attain to blessed regions thereafter. And Hutasana bestowed on him the boon of his own presence, whenever Nishadha wished, in regions bright as himself. And Yama granted him subtlety taste in food as well as preeminence in virtue. And the Lord of Waters granted Nala his own presence whenever he desired, and garlands of celestial fragrance. And thus each of them bestowed upon him a couple of buons, and having bestowed these, the gods went to heaven. And the kings, having witnessed with wonder Damayanti's selection of Nala, returned delighted whence they had come. And on the departure of those mighty monarchs, the high-souled Bhima, well pleased, celebrated the wedding of Nala and Damayanti, and having stayed there for a time, according to his desire, Nishadha, the best of men, returned to his own city with the permission of Bhima. And having attained that pearl of woman, the virtuous king began to pass his days in joy, like the slayer of Vala and Vritra, in the company of Sakhi, and assembling the sun in glory, the king, full of gladness, began to rule his subjects righteously, and gave them great satisfaction. And like unto Yayati, the son of Nahusha, that intelligent monarch celebrated the horse sacrifice and many other sacrifices with abundant gifts to Brahmanas. And like unto a very god, Nala sported with Damayanti in romantic woods and groves. And the high-minded king begat upon Damayanti a son named Indrasena, and a daughter named Indrasena. In celebrating sacrifice and sporting thus, the king ruled the earth, abounding in wealth. When the blazing guardians of the wars were returning after the daughter of Bhima had chosen Nishadha on their way, they met Devapara with Kali approaching towards them, and seeing Kali, Sakra, the slayer of Vala and Vritra, said, "Say whither thou art going with Devapara?" And thereupon Kali replied unto Sakra, "Going to Damayanti Sivayamvara, will I obtain her, as my heart is fixed upon that damsel." Hearing this, Indra said with a smile, "That Sivayamvara is already ended. In our sight she hath chosen Nala for her husband." Thus answered by Sakra, Kali, that vilest of the celestials, filled with wrath, addressing out those gods, spake, "Sighs in the presence of the celestial, she hath chosen a mortal for her lord. It is meet that she should undergo a heavy doom." Upon hearing these words of Kali, the celestials answered, "It is with our sanction that Damayanti hath chosen Nala. What damsel is there that would not choose King Nala, endowed with every virtue, well versed in all duties, always conducting himself with rectitude? He hath studied the 4 Vedas together with the Puranas that are regarded as the 5th, leading a life of harmlessness unto all creatures. He is truth-telling and firm in his vows. In his house the gods are ever gratified by sacrifices held according to the ordinance. In that tiger among men, that king assembling a Lokapala, is truth and forbearance and knowledge and asceticism and purity and self-control and perfect tranquility of soul. The fool that wisheth to curse Nala, bearing such a character, curseth himself, and destroyeth himself by his own act. And he that seeketh to curse Nala, crowned with such virtues, sinketh into the weed bottomless pit of hell, heaved with torments. Having said this to Kali and Devapara, the gods went to heaven. And when the gods had gone away, Kali said unto Devapara, I am ill able to suppress my anger. I shall possess Nala, deprive him of his kingdom, and he shall no more spot with Bhima doctor enter the dice. It behoveth thee to help me. Having made this compact with Devapara, Kali came to the place where the king of the Nishadihas was, and always watching for a hole. He continued to dwell in the country of the Nishadihas for a long time, and it was in the 12th year that Kali saw a hole, for one day after answering the call of Natari, Nishadiha Toshinwada said his twilight prayers without having previously washed his feet. And it was through this that Kali entered his person, and having possessed Nala, he appeared before Puskara and addressed him, saying, Come and play at dice with Nala. Through my assistance thou wilt surely win at the play. And defeating King Nala and acquiring his kingdom, do thou rule the Nishadihas. Thus exhorted by Kali, Puskara went to Nala, and Devapara approached Puskara, becoming the principal die-colored Vrisha, and appearing before the warlike Nala, that slayer of hostile heroes, Puskara repeatedly said, Let us play together with dice. Thus challenged in the presence of Damayanti, the lofty-minded king could not long decline it, and he accordingly fixed the time for the play, and possessed by Kali, Nala began to lose in the game his stakes in gold and silver and cars with the themes thereof, and robes, and maddened at dice. No one among his friends could succeed in dissuading that oppressor of foes from the play that went on, and thereupon the citizens in a body with the chief councillors came thither to behold the distressed monarch and make him desist. And the charioteer coming to Damayanti spake to her of this, saying, The citizens and officers of the state wait at the gate. Do thou inform the king of the Nishadihas that the citizens have come here, unable to bear the calamity that hath befallen their king, conversant with virtue and wealth. Thereupon Bhima doctor, overwhelmed with grief and almost deprived of reason, by it spake unto Nala in shocked assent. The citizens with the councillors of state, urged by loyalty, stay at the gate desirous of beholding thee. It behoveth thee to grant them an interview. The king, possessed by Kali, uttered not a word in reply unto his queen of graceful glances, uttering thus her lamentations. And at this those councillors of state, as also the citizens, afflicted with grief and shame, returned to their homes, saying, He liveth not. And it was thus that Nala and Puskara gambled together for many months, the virtuous Nala being always worsted. Bhima doctor, the cool-headed Damayanti, seeing the righteous king maddened and deprived of his senses at dice, was filled with alarm and grief, and she thought the affair to be a serious one with the king, and apprehensive of the calamity that threatened Nala, yet seeking his welfare, and at last understanding that her lord had lost everything, she said unto her nurse and maidservant, Vrihatsena, of high fame, intent upon her good, dexterous in all duties, faithful and sweet-speeched, these words: Go thou and summon the councillors in the name of Nala, and tell them what of wealth and other things have been lost and what remaineth. The councillors then, hearing of Nala's summons, said, This is fortunate for us, and approached the king. and when the subjects in a body had come a second time, the doctor of Bhima informed Nala of it. The king regarded her not, finding her husband disregarding her words. Damayanti, filled with shame, returned to her apartments. And hearing that the dice were uniformly unfavorably to the virtuous Nala, and that he had lost everything, she again spake unto her nurse, saying, Go thou again in Nala's name to bring hither the Shriota, Varsneya. The matter at hand is very serious. And Vrihatsena, hearing those words of Damayanti, caused Varsneya to be summoned by Truss servants, and the blameless doctor of Bhima, acquainted with conduct suitably to time and place, addressing soft words, said according to the occasion. Thou knowest how the king hath always behaved towards thee. He is now in difficult, and it behoveth thee to assist him. The more the king loseth to Puskara, the greater becometh his ardor for the play. And as the dice fall obedient to Puskara, it is seen that they are adverse to Nala in the matter of the play. And absorbed in the play, he heedeth not the words of his friends and relatives, nor even those of mine. I do not think, however, that in this the high-souled Naishadha is to blame, inasmuch as the king regarded not my words, being absorbed in play. I seek thy protection. Do my behest. My mind misgiveth me. The king may come to grief, yoking Nala favorite horses, and with the flatness of the mind. Do thou take these twins on the car, and here thou to Kundina, leaving the children there with my kindred, as also the car and the horses. Either stay thou there, or go to any other place, as it listeth thee. Varsneya, the Shriota of Nala, then reported in detail these words of Damayanti unto the chief officers of the king, and having settled in consultation with them and obtaining their assent, the Shriota started for Vidarbha, taking the children on that car, and leaving there the boy Indrasena and the girl Indrasena, as also that best of cars and those steeds. The Shriota, with a sad heart, grieving for Nala, bade farewell unto Bhima, and wandering for some time, he arrived at the seat of Ayodhya, and there he appeared with a sorrowful heart before King Rituparna, and entered the service of that monarch as Shriota. After Varsneya had gone away, Puskara won from the righteous Nala the lady's kingdom and what else of wealth he had. And unto Nala, who had lost his kingdom, Puskara laughingly said, Let the play go on. What stake hast thou now? Damayanti on remaineth. Our heirs of thine have been won by me. Well, if thou likest that Damayanti be our stake now. Hearing these words of Puskara, the virtuous king felt as if his heart would burst in rage. He spake not a word. And gazing at Puskara in anguish, King Nala of great fame took all the ornaments of every part of his body, and tied in a single piece of cloth his body uncovered, renouncing all his wealth, and enhancing the grief of friends, the king set out. And Damayanti, clad in one piece of cloth, followed him behind as he was leaving the city. And coming to the outskirts of the city, Nala stayed there for 3 nights with his wife. Puskara proclaimed through the city that he that should show inattention to Nala would be doomed to death. And on account of these words of Puskara, and knowing his malice towards Nala, the citizens no longer showed him hospitable regards, and unregarded dog deserving of hospitable regards, Nala passed 3 nights in the outskirts of the city, living on water alone. And afflicted with hunger, the king went away in search of fruit and roots, Damayanti following him behind. And in agony of famine, after many days, Nala saw some birds with plumage of golden hue, and thereupon the mighty lord of the Nishadihas talked within himself, "These will be my banquet today, and my wealth." And then he covered them with the cloth he had on. When bearing up that garment of his, the birds rose up to the sky, and beholding Nala, nude and melancholy, and standing with face turned towards the ground, those hangers of the sky addressed him, saying, "We are even those dice. We had come hither wishing to take away thy cloth, for it pleased us not that thou shouldst depart even with thy cloth on." And finding himself deprived of his attire, and knowing that the dice were departing, the virtuous Nala thus spake unto Damayanti, "They through whose anger I have been despoiled of my kingdom, they through whose influence distressed and afflicted with hunger, I am unable to procure sustenance, they for whom the Nishadihas offered me not an hospitality, they are carrying off my cloth, assuming the form of birds, falling into his dear disaster. I am afflicted with grief and deprived of my senses. I am thy Lord. Do thou, therefore, listen to the words I speak for thy good." These manholes lead to the southern country, passing by Avanti and the Hikishavat mountains. This is that mighty mountain called Vindhya, yon the river Payasvini running seawards, and yonder are the asylums of the ascetics, furnished with various fruit and roots. This road leadeth to the country of the Vidarbhas, and that to the country of the Kosalas. Beyond these roads to the south and the southern country. Addressing Bhishma Doctor, the distressed King Nala spake those words unto Damayanti over and over again. Thereupon, afflicted with grief, in a voice shocked with tears, Damayanti spake unto Nishadha these piteous words, "Thinking of thy purpose my heart trembleth, and all my limbs become faint. How can I go, leaving thee in the lone woods, despoiled of thy kingdom, and deprived of thy wealth, thyself without a garment on, and worn with hunger and toil, when in the deep woods, fatigued and afflicted with hunger, thou thinkest of thy former bliss, I will so day thy weariness. In every sorrow there is no feast equal unto the wife, say the physicians. It is the truth that I speak unto thee." Hearing those words of his queen, Nala replied, "Damayanti, it is even as thou hast said. To a man in distress there is no friend or medicine that is equal unto a wife. I do not seek to renounce thee. Wherefore dost thou dread this? I can forsake myself, thee I cannot forsake." Damayanti then said, "If thou dost not intend to forsake me, why then dost thou point out to me the way to the country of the Vidarbhas? I know that thou wouldst not desert me. Considering that thy mind is distracted, thou mayest desert me. Thou repeatedly pointest out to me the way, and it is by this that thou enhancest my grief. If it is thy intention that I should go to my relatives, then if it pleaseth thee, both of us will wend to the country of the Vidarbhas. There the king of the Vidarbhas will receive thee with respect, and honored by him. Thou shalt live happily in our home." Nala said, "Surely thy father kingdom is as my own. Thither I will not, by any means, repair in this extremity. Once I appeared there in glory, increasing thy joy? How can I go there now in misery, augmenting thy grief? Saying this again and again unto Damayanti, King Nala, wrapped in half a garment, comforted his blessed wife, and both attired in one cloth, and wearied with hunger and thirst. In course of their wanderings, at last they came to the sheltered shed for travelers. And arriving at this place, the king of the Nishadihas sat down on the bare earth with the prince of Vidarbha, and wearing the same piece of cloth, and dirt, and haggard, and stained with dust, he fell asleep with Damayanti on the ground in weariness, and suddenly plunged in distress. The innocent and delicate Damayanti, with every mark of good fortune, fell into a profound slumber, and while she slept, Nala, with heart and mind distraught, could not slumber calmly as before. And reflecting on the loss of his kingdom, the desertion of his friends, and his distress in the woods, he thought within himself, what availeth my acting thus? And what if I act not thus? Is death the better for me now? Should I desert my wife? She is truly devoted to me and suffereth this distress for my sake. Separated from me, she may perchance wander to her relatives. Devoted as she is to me, if she stayeth with me, distress will surely be hers, while it is doubtful if I desert her. On the other hand, it is not unlikely that she may even have happiness sometime. Reflecting upon this repeatedly, and thinking of it again and again, he concluded that the desertion of Damayanti was the best course for him, and he talked of high fame and auspicious fortune, and devoted to me, her husband. She is incapable of being injured by anyone on the way on account of her energy. Thus his mind, that was influenced by the wicked Kali dwelling upon Damayanti, was made up for deserting her, and then thinking of his own want of clothing, and of her being clad in a single garment, he intended to cut off for himself one half of Damayanti attire. And he thought, how shall I divide this garment, so that my beloved one may not perceive? And thinking of this, the royal Nala began to walk up and down that shed, and passing thus to and fro, he found a handsome sword lying near the shed, unsheathed, and that oppressor of hers, having with that sword cut off one half of the cloth, and throwing the instrument away, left the doctor of Vidarbha insensibly in her sleep, and went away. His heart failing him, the king of the Nishadhas returned to the shed, and seeing Damayanti, burst into tears. And he said, Alas, that beloved one of mine whom neither the god of wind nor the sun had seen before, even she sleepeth today on the bare earth, like one forlorn, clad in this severed piece of cloth, and lying like one distracted. How will the beauteous one of luminous smiles behave when she awaketh? How will the beautiful daughter of Bhima, devoted to her lord, all alone and separated from me, wander through these deep woods inhabited by beasts and serpents? May the Adityas and the Vasus and the twin Aswins together with the Marutas protect thee, thy virtue being thy best guard. And addressing thus his dear wife, peerless on earth in beauty, Nala strove to go, heft of reason, Bakali, departing and still departing, King Nala returned again and again to that shed, dragged away by Kali, drawn back by love, and it seemed a tug. The heart of the wretched king was rent in twain, and like a swing he kept going out from cabin and coming back into it. At length, after lamenting long and piteously, Nala, stupefied and bereft of sense, Bakali went away, forsaking that sleeping wife of his, heft of reason, through Kali Tosh, and thinking of his conduct, the king departed in sorrow, leaving his wife alone in that solitary forest. After Nala had gone away, the beauteous Damayanti, now refreshed, timorously awoke in that lonely forest, and, not finding her lord, Naishadha, afflicted with grief and pain, she shrieked aloud in fright, saying, "Mighty monarch, dost thou desert me? I am lost and undone, frightened in this desolate place. Thou art truthful in speech and conversant with morality. How hast thou, then, having pledged thy word, deserted me asleep in the woods? Why hast thou deserted thy accomplished wife, even devoted to thee, particularly on that hath not wronged thee, though wronged thou hast been by others? It behoveth thee to act faithful according to those words thou hast spoken unto me before, in the presence of the guardians of the world. That thy wife liveth even a moment after thy desertion of her is only because mortals are decreed to die at the appointed time. Enough of this joke. I am terribly frightened. Show thyself. I see thee, thou art seen, hiding thyself behind those roofs. Why dost thou not reply unto me? It is cruel of thee, that seeing me in this plight and lamenting, thou dost not approach and comfort me. I grieve not for myself, nor for anything else. I only grieve to think how thou wilt pass thy days alone, in the evening, oppressed with hunger and thirst and fatigue, underneath the trees. How wilt it fare with thee when thou seest me not? And then Damayanti, afflicted with anguish and burning with grief, began to rush hither and thither, weeping in woe. And now the helpless prince sprang up, and now she sunk down in stupor, and now she shrunk in terror, and now she wept and wailed aloud. And became a doctor devoted to her husband, burning in anguish and sighing evermore, and faith and weeping exclaimed, that being through whose imprecation the afflicted Naishadha suffereth this woe, shall bear grief that is greater than ours. May that wicked being who hath brought Nala of sinless heart this lead a more miserable life, bearing greater ills. Thus lamenting, the crowned consort of the illustrious began to seek her lord in those woods, inhabited by beasts of prey, and the doctor of Bhima, wailing bitterly, wandered hither and thither like a maniac, exclaiming, "Alas, O king!" And as she was wailing loudly like a female osprey, and grieving and indulging in piteous lamentations, unceasingly she came near a gigantic serpent. And that hooked and hungry serpent thereupon suddenly seized the behemoth doctor, who had come near and was moving about within its range, and folded within serpent's coils, and filled with grief. She still wept, not for herself, for Naishadha, and she said, "Why dost thou not rush towards me, now that I am seized, without anybody to protect me, but the serpent in this desert woods? And how will it fare with thee when thou rememberest me? Why hast thou gone away, deserting me today in the forest? Free from thy course, when thou wilt have regained thy mind and senses and wealth, how will it be with thee when thou thinkest of me? who will soothe thee when thou art weary, and hungry, and fainting. And while she was wailing thus, a certain huntsman, hanging the deep woods, hearing her lamentations, swiftly came to the spot, and beholding the large-eyed one in the coils of serpent, he rushed towards it and cut off its head with his sharp weapon. And having struck the reptile dead, the huntsman set Damayanti free, and having sprinkled her body with water and fed and comforted her, he addressed her, saying, "Thou with eyes like those of a young gazelle, who art thou, and why hast thou come into the wood? And how hast thou fallen into this extreme misery?" And thus accosted. But that man, Damayanti, related unto him all that had happened, and beholding that beautiful woman clad in half a garment, with deep bosom, and round hips, and limbs delicate and faultless, and face resembling the full moon, and eyes graced with curved eyes lashes, and speech sweet as honey, the hunter became inflamed with desire. And afflicted by the god of love, the huntsman began to soothe her in winning voice and soft words. And as soon as the chaste and beauteous Damayanti, beholding him, understood his intentions, she was filled with fierce wrath, and seemed to blaze up in anger. The wicked-minded wretch, burning with desire, became wroth, attempted to employ force upon her, who was unconquerably as a flame of blazing fire, and Damayanti, already distressed upon being deprived of husband and kingdom, in that hour of grief beyond utterance, cursed him in anger, saying, "I have never even talked of any other person than Naishadha. Therefore let this mean-minded wretch, subsisting on chase, fall down lifeless." And as soon as she said this, the hunter fell down lifeless upon the ground, like a tree consumed by fire. Having destroyed that hunter, Damayanti, of eyes like lotus leaves, went onwards through that fearful and solitary forest, hissing with the chirp of crickets. And it abounded with lions and leopards, and hurus, and tigers, and buffaloes, and bears, and deer, and it swarmed with birds of various species, and was infested by thieves and Melekha tribes, and it contained salas and bamboos, and dihavas, and asvatihas, and tindukas, and ingudas, and kinsukas, and Arjunas, and Nimvas, and Tinisas, and Saumalas, and Jambus, and mango trees, and Lodihas, and Katekhu, and Decane, and Padimakas, and Amalakas, and Plakishas, and Kadamvas, and Udumvaras, and Vadaris, and Vilvas, and Banyans, and Pialas, and palms, and date trees, and Haritakas, and Vivihitakas. And the prince of Vidarbha saw many mountains containing ores of various kinds, and groups resounding with the notes of winged shores, and many glens of wondrous sight, and many rivers, and lakes, and tanks, and various kinds of birds and beasts. And she saw numberless snakes, and goblins, and rakshasas of green visage, and pools, and tanks, and billocks, and brooks, and fountains of wonderful appearance. And the prince of Vidarbha saw there herds of buffaloes, and boars, and bears, as well as serpents of the wilderness. And save in virtue, and glory, and good fortune, and patience, Damayanti wandered through those woods alone in search of Nala, and the royal doctor of Bhima, distressed on at her separation from her lord, was not terrified at aught in that fearful forest. and seating herself down upon a stone, and filled with grief, and every limb of her trembling with sorrow, on account of her husband, she began to lament thus: Thou of broad chest and might arms, whither hast thou gone, leaving me in this lone forest? Having performed the Asva Medha and other sacrifice with gifts in profusion, why hast thou played false with me alone? It behoveth thee to remember what thou didst declare before me. It behoveth thee to call to mind what the sky-hanging swans spake in thy presence and in mine. The four Vedas in all their extent, with the Angas and the Upangas, well studied on one side, and on single truth on the other. Therefore, it behoveth thee to make good what thou didst formerly declare before me. Alas, being thine, I am about to perish in this dreadful forest. Wherefore dost thou not answer me, this terrible lord of the forest, of grim visage and gaping jaws, and famishing with hunger, filleth me with fright? Doth it not behove thee to deliver me? Thou wert wont to say always, save thee there existeth not one dear unto me. Do thou now make good thy words spoken before? And why dost thou not return an answer to thy beloved wife, bewailing in benefit of sense, although thou lovest her, being loved in return? Why dost thou not regard me, emaciated and distressed and pale, and discolored, and clad in a half piece of cloth, and alone, and weeping, and lamenting like one forlorn, and like unto a solitary door separated from the head? It is, Damayanti, devoted to thee, who alone in this great forest address thee. Wherefore, then dost thou not reply unto me? I do not behold thee today on this mountain. Thou of noble birth and character, with every limb possessed of grace, in this terrible forest, haunted by lions and tigers. Whether thou art lying down, or sitting, or standing, or gone, whom shall I ask, distressed and war-stricken on thy account, saying, Hast thou seen in these woods the royal Nala? Of whom shall I in this forest inquire after the departed Nala, handsome and of high soul, and the destroyer of hostile race? From whom shall I today hear the sweet words? That royal Nala of eyes like lotus leaves, whom thou seekest, is even here. Yonder cometh the forest king, the tiger of graceful mien, furnished with 4 teeth and prominent cheeks. Even him will accost fearlessly. Thou art the lord of all animals, and of this forest the king. Know me for Damayanti, the daughter of the king of the Vidarbhas, and the wife of Nala, destroyer of foes, and the king of the Nishadhas, distressed and war-stricken. I am seeking my husband, alone in these woods. Do thou comfort me, if thou hast seen him. If thou cannot speak of Nala, do thou then devour me, and free me from this misery. Alas, hearing my plaintive appeal in the wilderness, this king of beasts heareth to the crystal river that rolleth towards the sea. Let me, then, for tidings of the king, ask this king of mountains, this high and sacred hill, crested with innumerably heaven-kissing, and many hued and beauteous peaks, and abounding in various ores, and decked with gems of diverse kinds, and rising like a banner over this broad forest, enhanced by lions and tigers and elephants and boars and bears and stags, and echoing all around with winged creatures of various species, and adorned with kingsukas and asokas and vakulas and punnagas, with blossoming karnikaras and dihavas, in Plaki's house, and with streams haunted by waterfalls of every kind, and abounding in crested summits. Approaching, I bow to thee, know me for a king doctor and a king doctor-in-law and king consort, Damayanti by name, that lord of earth who ruleth the Vidarbhas, that mighty warrior, King Bhishma by name, who protecteth the four orders, is Masari. That best of kings celebrated the Rajasuya and Asvamedha sacrifices, with profuse gifts to the Brahmanas, possessed of beautiful and large eyes, distinguished for devotion to the Vedas, of unblemished character, truth-telling, devoid of guile, gently, endowed with prowess, lord of immense wealth, versed in morality, and poor, he having vanquished all his foes, effectual protecteth the inhabitants of Vidarbha. Know me, for his doctor does come to thee, that best of men, the celebrated ruler of the Nishadhas, know by the name of Virasena, of high fame, was my father-in-law, the son of that king, heroic and handsome and possessed of energy incapable of being baffled, who ruleth well the kingdom, which hath descended to him from his father, his name is Nala. Know that of that slayer of foes, called Punya Isloka, possessed of the complexion of gold, and devoted to the Brahmanas, and versed in the Vedas, and gifted with eloquence, of that righteous and soma-quaffing and fire-adoring king, who celebrateth sacrifice, and is liberal and warlike, and who adequately chastiseth. I am the innocent spouse, the chief of his queens, standing before thee, despoiled of prosperity, and deprived of husband, without a protector, and afflicted with calamity. Hither have I come, seeking my husband. Hast thou, with thy hundreds of peaks, touring, seen King Nala in this frightful forest? Hast thou seen my husband, that ruler of the Nishadhas, the illustrious Nala, with the tread of a mighty elephant, endowed with intelligence, long-armed, and of fiery energy, possessed of prowess and patience, and courage, and high fame, seeing me bewailing alone, overwhelmed with sorrow? Wherefore dost thou not today soothe me with thy voice, as thy own doctor in distress? If thou art in this forest, then reveal thyself unto me. When shall I again hear the voice of Nala, gently and deep as that of the clowns, that voice sweet as Amrita, of the illustrious king, calling me Vidarbha doctor, with a sense distinct and whole and musical as the chanting of the Vedas, and rich and soothing all my sorrows? I am frightened, do thou comfort me. Having addressed that foremost of mountain thus, Damayanti then went in a northerly direction, and having proceeded 3 days and nights, that best of women came to an incomparably pronounced grove of ascetics, resembling in beauty a celestial grove. And the charming asylum she beheld was inhabited and adorned by ascetic like Vasistiha and Bhirigu and Atri, self-denying and strict in diet, with minds under control, endowed with holiness, some living on water, some on air, and some on leaves, with pastors in check, eminently blessed, seeking the way to heaven, clad in barks of trees and deer skins, and with senses subdued, and beholding that hermitage inhabited by ascetics, and abounding in herds of deer and monkeys, Damayanti was shattered. And that best of women, the innocent and blessed Damayanti, with graceful eyebrows and long tresses, with lovely hips and deep bosom, and face graced with thin teeth, and with thin black and large eyes, in her brightness and glory, entered that asylum, and saluting those ascetics grown old in practicing austerities, she stood in an attitude of humility, and the ascetics living in that forest said, "Welcome." And those men of ascetic wealth, paying her due homage, said, "Sit ye down and tell us what we may do for thee." That best of women replied unto them, saying, "Ye sinless and eminently blessed ascetics, is it well with your austerities and sacrificial fire and religious observances and the duties of your own order? And is it well with the beasts and birds of this asylum?" And they answered, "Prosperity attendeth us in every respect. Tell us who thou art and what thou seekest, beholding thy beauteous form and thy bright splendor, we have been amazed." Cheer up and mourn not. Tell us, art thou the presiding deity of this forest, or of this mountain, or of this river? Damayanti replied unto those ascetics, saying, "I am not the goddess of this forest, or of this mountain, or of this stream. Know that I am a human being. I will relate my history in detail. Do ye listen to me? There is a king, the mighty ruler of the Vidarbhas, Bhima by name. Know me to be his daughter, the wise ruler of the Nishadihas, Nala by name, of great celebrity, heroic and ever victorious in battle, and learned is my husband, engaged in the worship of the gods, devoted to the twice-born Ons, the guardian of the line of the Nishadihas, of mighty energy, possessed of great strength, truthful, conversant with all duties, wise, unwavering in promise, the crusher of foes, devout, serving the gods, graceful, the conqueror of hostile towns, that foremost of kings, Nala by name, equal in splendor unto the Lord of Celestials, the slayer of foes, possessed of large eyes, and a face resembling the full moon, is my husband, the celebrator of great sacrifices, versed in the Vedas and their branches, the destroyer of enemies in battle, and like unto the sun and the moon in splendor, is he. That king devoted to truth and religion was summoned to dice by certain deceitful persons of mean-minded and uncultured soul and of crooked ways, and skillful in gambling, and was deprived of wealth and kingdom. Know that I am the wife of that bull among kings, known to all by the name of Damayanti, anxious to find out my lord, in sadness of heart. I am wandering among woods and mountains and lakes and rivers and tanks and forests in search of that husband of mine, Nala, skilled in battle, high-souled and well-versed in the use of weapons. The Lord of the Nishadihas, come to this delightful asylum of your whole selves. It is for him that I have come to this dreary forest full of terrors and haunted by tigers and other beasts. If I do not see King Nala within a few days and nights, I shall seek my good by renouncing this body. Of what use is my life without that bull among men? How shall I live afflicted with grief on account of my husband? Unto Bhima daughter Damayanti, thus lamenting forlorn, in that forest, the truth-telling ascetics replied, saying, "We see by ascetic power that the philtre will bring happiness to thee, and that thou wilt soon behold Nishadha, Thou wilt behold Nala, the lord of the Nishadihas, the slayer of foes, and the foremost of the virtues freed from distress. And thou wilt behold the king, thy lord, freed from all sins and decked with all kinds of gems, and ruling the self-same city, and chasing his enemies, and striking terror into the hearts of foes, and gladdening the hearts of friends, and crowned with every blessing. Having spoken unto that prince, the beloved queen of Nala, the ascetics with their sacred fires, and the Zilum vanished from sight. And beholding that might wonder, the daughter-in-law of King Virasena, Damayanti of faultless limbs, was struck with amazement. And she asked herself, was it a dream that I saw? What an occurrence hath taken place? Where are all those ascetics? And where is that asylum? Where, further, is that delightful river of sacred waters, the resort of diverse kinds of fowls? And where, again, are those charming trees decked with fruits and flowers? And after thinking for some time, Bhima doctor, Damayanti of sweet smiles, melancholy and afflicted with grief on account of her lord, lost the color of her face. In going to another part of the wood, she saw an asoka tree, and approaching that first of trees in the forest, charming with blossoms, and its load of foliage, and resounding with the notes of birds, Damayanti, with tears in her eyes, and a sense shocked in grief, began to lament, saying, this graceful tree in the heart of the forest, decked in flowers, looketh beautiful, like a charming king of hills. Do thou speedily free me from grief. Hast thou seen King Nala, the slayer of foes, and the beloved husband of Damayanti, freed from fear and grief and obstacles? Hast thou seen my beloved husband, the ruler of the Nishadihas, clad in half a piece of cloth, with delicate skin, that hero afflicted with war, and who hath come into this wilderness? Do thou free me from grief. Vindicate thy name for Asoka Mianef, destroyer of grief, and going round that tree thrice with an afflicted heart, that best of woman, Bhima doctor, entered a more terribly part of the forest, and wandering in quest of her lord, Bhima doctor beheld many trees, and streams, and delightful mountains, and many beasts and birds, and caves, and precipices, and many rivers of wonderful appearance. And as she proceeded, she came upon a broad way, where she saw with wonder a body of a merchants with their horses and elephants landing on the banks of a river, full of clear and cool water, and lovely and charming to behold, and broad, and covered with bushes of canes, and echoing with the cries of cranes, and ospreys, and hakravakas, and abounding in tortoises, and alligators, and fishes, and stood dead with innumerable islets. And as soon as she saw that caravan, the beauteous and celebrated wife of Nala, whined like a maniac, oppressed with grief, clad in half a garment, lean and pale and smoothed, and with hair covered with dust, drew near and entered into its midst. And beholding her, some fled in fear, and some became extremely anxious, and some cried aloud, and some laughed at her, and some hated her, and some felt pity for, and even addressed her, saying, who art thou, and whose? What seekest thou in the woods? Seeing thee here, we have been terrified. Art thou woman? Tell us truly, if thou art the goddess of this wood, or of this mountain, or of the points of the heaven. We seek thy protection. art thou a female Yakisha, or a female Hakishasa, or a celestial damsel? Do thou bless us in all and protect us, and do thou so act that his caravan may soon go hence in prosperity, and that the welfare of us may be secured. Thus addressed but that caravan, the prince Damayanti, devoted to her husband, and oppressed by the calamity that had befallen her, answered, saying, Ye merchants, ye youths, old men, and children, and ye that compose this caravan, know me for a human being. I am the doctor of a king, and the doctor-in-law of a king, and the consort of a king, eager for the sight of my lord. The ruler of the Vidarbhas is my father, and my husband is the lord of the Nishadihas, named Nala. Even now I am seeking that unvanquished and blessed one. If ye have chanced to see my beloved one, King Nala, the tiger among men, that destroyer of hostile hosts. Thereupon the leader of that great caravan, named Sukhi, he plied unto Damayanti of faultless limbs, saying, Listen to my words. I am a merchant and the leader of this caravan. I have not seen any man of the name of Nala. In this extensive forest, uninhabited by men, there are only elephants and leopards and buffaloes and tigers and bears and other animals. Except thee, I have not met with any man or woman here. Help us now, Mani Bihadra, the king of Yakishas. Thus addressed by them, she asked those merchants as well as the leader of the host, saying, It behoveth you to tell me whither this caravan is bound. The leader of the band said, For the purpose of profit, this caravan is bound direct for the seat of Subahu, the truth-telling ruler of the heads. Having heard the words of the leader of that caravan, Damayanti of faultless limbs proceeded with that caravan, itself anxious to behold her lord. And after having proceeded for many days, the merchants saw a large lake fragrant with lotuses in the midst of that dense and terrible forest, and it was beautiful all over and exceedingly delightful, abounding in grass and fuel and fruits and flowers. And it was inhabited by various kinds of fowls and birds, and full of water that was pure and sweet, and it was cool and capable of captivating the heart, and the caravan, worn out with toil, resolved to halt there, and with the permission of their leader, they spread themselves around those beautiful woods, and that mighty caravan, finding it was evening, halted at that place. And at the hour of midnight, when everything was hushed and still, and the tired caravan had fallen asleep, a herd of elephants, in going towards a mountain stream to drink of its water, befooled by their temporal juice, saw that caravan, as also the numerous elephants belonging to it. And seeing their domesticated fellows, the wild elephants, infuriated and with the temporal juice trickling down, rushed impetuously on the former, with the intention of killing them, and the force of the rush of those elephants was hard to bear, like the impetuosity of peaks loosened from mountain summits, rolling towards the plain. The rushing elephants found the forest paths to be all blocked up, for the goodly caravan was sleeping, obstructing the paths around that lake of lotuses, and the elephants out of Sudan began to crush the men lying insensibly on the ground, and uttering cries of awe and alas, the merchants, blinded by sleep, fled in order to escape that danger, to copses and woods for refuge, and some were slain by the tusk, and some by the trunks, and some by the legs of those elephants, and innumerably camels and horses were killed, and crowds of men on foot, running in fright, killed one another. And uttering loud cries, some fell down on the ground, and some in fear climbed on trees, and some dropped down on uneven ground, and thus accidentally attacked by that large herd of elephants, that goodly caravan suffered a great loss. And there arose a tremendous uproar calculated to frighten the 3 worlds. Lo, a great fire hath broken out. Escape us. Do ye speedily fly away? Why do ye fly? Take the heaps of Jews scattered around. All this wealth is a trifle. I do not speak falsely, I tell you. Think on my words. With such exclamation they ran about in fright, and Damayanti awoke in fear and angst, while that terribly slaughter was hanging there. And beholding that slaughter capable of awaking the fear of all the world, and which was so unforeseen, the damsel of eyes like lotus leaves rose up, wild with fright, and almost out of breath, and those of the caravan that had escaped unhurt met together and asked one another, what deed of ours is this the consequence? Surely we have failed to worship the illustrious Mahbharata, and likewise the exalted and graceful Vaisravana, the king of the Yakisha. Perhaps we have not worshipped the deities that cause calamities, or perhaps we have not paid them the first homage. Or perhaps this evil is the certain consequence of the birds, or stars are not unpropitious. From what other cause then have this disaster come? Others, distressed and bereft of wealth and relatives, say it. That maniac-like woman who came amongst this mighty caravan in guise that was strange and scarily human. It is by her that this dreadful illusion had been prearranged. Of a certainty, she is a terribly Hakishasa, or a Yakisha, or a Pisakha woman. All this evil is her work. What need of doubts? If we again see that wicked destroyer of merchants, that giver of innumerable woes, we shall certainly slay that injurer of ours, with stones and dust and grass and wood and cuffs. And hearing these dreadful words of the merchants, Damayanti in terror and shame and angst fled into the woods apprehensively of evil, and he approaching herself she said, Alas, fierce and great is the wrath of God on me. Peace followeth not in my track. Of what misdeed is this the consequence? I do not remember that I did ever so little a wrong to anyone in thought, word, or deed. Of what deed, then, is this the consequence? Certainly it is on account of the great things I had committed in a former life that such calamity hath befallen me, the loss of my husband's kingdom, his defeat at the hands of his own kinsmen, the separation from my lord and my son and daughter, this my unprotected estate, and my presence in this forest, abounding in innumerable beasts of prey. The next day, the remnant of that caravan left the place, bewailing the destruction that had overtaken them, and lamenting for their dead brothers and fathers and sons and friends. And the prince of Vidarbha began to lament, saying, Alas, what misdeed have I perpetrated? The crowd of men that are obtained in this lone forest have been destroyed by a herd of elephants, solely as a consequence of my ill luck. Without doubt, I shall have to suffer misery for a long time. I have heard from old men that no person dieth ere his time. It is for this that my miserable self hath not been trodden to death by that herd of elephants. Nothing that befalleth men is due to anything else than destiny. For even in my childhood I did not commit any such sin in thought, word, or deed, whence might come this calamity. I suffered this severance from my husband through the potence of those celestial Lokapalas who had come to the Sivayamvara, whom I disregarded for the sake of Nala, bewailing thus that excellent lady, Damayanti, devoted to her husband, went oppressed with grief, and as the autumnal moon with those Brahmanas versed in the Vedas that had survived the slaughter of the caravan. And departing speedily towards evening, the damsel came to the marked seat of the truth-telling Subahu, the king of the heads, and she entered that excellent seat, clad in half a garment, and the citizens saw her as she went, overcome with fear and lean melancholy, her hair dishevelled and soiled with dust, and maniac-like, and beholding her enter the seat of the king of the heads, the boys of the seat, from curiosity, began to follow her, and surrounded by them, she came before the palace of the king, and from the terrace the queen mother saw her surrounded by the crowd. And she said to her nurse, "Go and bring that woman before me. She is forlorn, and is being vexed by the crowd. She hath fallen into distress, and standeth in need of succor. I find her beauty to be such, that it illumineth my house. The fair one, Tog, looking like a maniac, seemeth a very Sri with her large eyes." Thus commanded, the nurse went out, and dispersing the crowd, brought Damayanti to that graceful terrace, and struck with wonder, she asked Damayanti, saying, "Afflicted Tog, thou art with such distress, thou ownest a beautiful form. Thou shinest like lightning in the midst of the clouds. Tell me who thou art, and whose. Surely thy beauty is not woman. Berefet Tog, thou art of ornaments, and Autog, thou art helpless, yet thou art unmoved under the outrage of these men." Hearing these words of the nurse, the doctor of Bhima said, "Know that I am a female belonging to the human species, and devoted to my husband. I am a serving woman of good lineage. I live wherever I like, subsisting on fruit and roots, and without a companion, and stay where evening overtaketh me. My husband is the owner of the countless virtues, and was ever devoted to me, and on my part was deeply attached to him, following him like his shadow. It chanced that once he became desperately engaged at dice. Defeated at dice, he came alone into the forest. I accompanied my husband into the woods, comforting the hero clad in a single piece of cloth and maniac-like, and overwhelmed with calamity. Once on a time, for some cause, that hero, afflicted with hunger and thirst and grief, was forced to abandon that sole piece of covering in the forest, destitute of garment and maniac-like, and deprived of his senses as he was. I followed him, myself in a single garment. Following him, I did not sleep for nights together. Thus passed many days, until at last while I was sleeping, he cut off half of my cloth, and forsook me who had done him no wrong. I am seeking my husband, unable to find him who is of who like the filaments of the lotus, without being able to cast my eyes on that delight of my heart, that dear Lord who owneth my heart, and assembleth the celestials in me day and night, do I burn in grief. Unto Bhima doctor, thus lamenting with tearful eyes, and afflicted and speaking in a sense shocked in grief, the Queen Mother herself said, Do thou stay with me, I am well pleased with thee. My men shall search for thy husband, or perhaps he may come here of his own accord in course of his wanderings, and residing here thou wilt again thy lord. Hearing these words of the Queen Mother, Damayanti replied, I may stay with thee on certain conditions. I shall not eat the livings on any dish, nor shall I wash anybody's feet, nor shall I have to speak with other men. And if anybody shall seek me, he should be liable to punishment at thy hands, and further should be solicit me over and over again, that wicked one should be punished with death. This is the vow I have made. I intend to have an interview with those Brahmanas that will set out to search for my husband. If thou canst do all this, I shall certainly live with thee. If it is otherwise, I cannot find it in my heart to reside with thee. The Queen Mother answered her with a glad heart, saying, I will do all this. Thou hast done well in adopting such a vow. Having spoken unto the daughter of Bhima, the Queen Mother said to her daughter named Sunanda, Accept this lady like a goddess as thy Saihindhi. Let her be thy companion, as she is of the same age with thee. Do thou with her free from care, always sport with her in joy. And Sunanda cheerful accepted Damayanti and led her to her own apartment, accompanied by her associates, and treated with respect. Damayanti was satisfied, and she continued to reside there without anxiety of any kind, for all her wishes were duly gratified. Having deserted Damayanti, King Nala saw a marked conflagration that was hanging in that dense forest, and in the midst of that conflagration he heard the voice of some creature repeatedly crying aloud, Come hither, and answering, Fear not, he entered into the midst of the fire, and beheld a marked Naga lying in coils. And the Naga with joined hands and trembling spake unto Nala, saying, Know that I am a snake, Karkotaka by name. I had deceived the great rich Narada of high ascetic merit, and by him have I been cursed in wrath, even in woes such as this. Stay thou here like an immobile thing, until on Nala taketh thee hence, and in thee, on the spot to which he will carry thee, there shalt thou be freed from my curse. It is for that curse of his that I am unable to steer on a step. I will instruct thee in respect of thy welfare. It behoveth thee to deliver me. I will be thy friend. There is no snake equal to me. I will be delight in thy hands. Take me up, do thou speedily go hence. Having said this, that prince of snakes became as small as the thumb, and taking him up, Nala went to a spot free from fire. Having reached an open spot where there was no fire, Nala intended to drop the serpent, upon which Karkotaka again addressed him, saying, Proceed thou yet, counting a few steps of thine. Meanwhile, I will do thee great good. And as Nala began to count his steps, the snake beat him at the 10th step, and lo, and as he was beat, his form speedily underwent a change. And beholding his change of form, Nala was amazed, and the king saw the snake assume his own form, and the snake Kakotaka, comforting Nala, spake unto him, I have deprived thee of thy beauty, that people may not recognize thee, and he by whom thou hast been deceived and cast into distress shall dwell in thee, tortured by my venom. And as long as he doth not leave thee, he will have to dwell in pain in thy body with thee, every limb filled with my venom. And I have saved from the hands of him who from anger and hate deceived thee, perfectly innocent dog, thou art an undeserving of wrong, and through my grace thou shalt have any fear from animals, with fangs from enemies, and from Brahmanas vested in the Vedas, nor shalt thou feel pain on account of my poison, and thou shalt be ever victorious in battle. This very day go to the delightful seat of Ayodhya, and present thyself before Rituparna, skilled in gambling, saying, I am a charioteer, Vahuka by name, and that king will give thee his skill in dice, for thy knowledge of horses is sprung from the line of Ikisvaku, and possessed of prosperity, he will be thy friend. When thou wilt be an adept at dice, thou shalt then have prosperity. Thou wilt meet with thy wife and thy children, and regain thy kingdom. I tell thee this truly. Therefore, let not thy mind be occupied by sorrow. And when thou shouldst desire to behold thy proper form, thou shouldst remember me, and wear this garment. Upon wearing this, thou shalt get back thy own form. In saying this, that Naga then gave unto Nala 2 pieces of celestial cloth, and having thus instructed Nala, and presented him with the attire, the king of snakes made himself invisible there and then. After the snake had vanquished, Nala, the ruler of the Nishadihas, proceeded, and on the 10th day entered the seat of Rituparna, and he approached the king, saying, My name is Vahuka. There is no one in this world equal to me in managing steeds. My counsel should be sought in the matters of difficulty and in all affairs of skill. I surpass others in the art of cooking, in all those arts that exist in this world, and in everything difficult of accomplishment I will strive to attain success. Do thou maintain me? And Rituparna replied, Stay with me, may good happen to thee. Thou wilt even perform all this. I have always particularly desired to be driven fast. Do thou concert such merceries that my steeds may become fleet. I appointed thee the superintendent of my stables. Thy pay shall be 10,000. Both Varsneya and Jivala shall always be under thy direction. Thou wilt live pleasantly in their company, therefore stay thou with me. Thus addressed by the king, Nala began to dwell in the seat of Rituparna, treated with respect, and with Varsneya and Jivala as his companions. In his hiding there, the king, remembering the prince of Vidarbha, recited every evening the following shloka: Where lieth that helpless one afflicted with hunger and thirst, and worn with toil, thinking of that wretch, and upon whom doth she now wait? And once as the king was sitting thus in the night, Jivala asked him, saying, Whom dost thou lament thus daily? I am curious to hear it. Whose spouse is she whom thus lamentest? Thus questioned, King Nala answered him, saying, A certain person devoid of sense had a wife well known to many. That wretch was false in his promises. For some reason that wicked person was separated from her. Separated from her, that wretch wandered about oppressed with woe, and burning with grief he hasteth not by day or night. And at night, remembering her, he singeth this sloka. Having wandered over the entire world, he hath at last found a refuge, and undeserving of the distress that hath befallen him, passeth his days, thus remembering his wife. When calamity had overtaken these men, his wife followed him into the woods. Deserted by that man of little virtue, her life itself is in danger. Alone, without knowledge of ways, ill able to bear distress, and fainting with hunger and thirst, the girl can hardly protect her life, and she hath been deserted by that man of small fortune, and having little sense, with the weed and terrible forest, ever abounding in beasts of prey. Thus remembering Damayanti, the king of the Nishadihas, continued to live unknown in the abode of that monarch. After Nala, despoiled of his kingdom, had with his wife become a bondsman, Bhishma, with the desire of seeing Nala, sent out Brahmanas to search for him, and giving them profuse wealth, Bhishma enjoined on them, saying, Do ye search for Nala and for my daughter Damayanti. He who achieveth this task, ascertaining where the ruler of the Nishadihas is, bringeth him and my daughter hither, will obtain from me 1,000 kine and fields and a village resembling a town. Even if failing to bring Damayanti and Nala here, he that succeeds in learning their whereabouts will get from me the wealth represented by 1,000 kine. Thus addressed, the Brahmanas cheerful went out in all directions, seeking Nala and his wife in cities and provinces. Nala or his spouse they found not anywhere, until at length, searching in the beautiful city of the hedges, a Brahmana named Sudeva, during the time of the king prayers, saw the prince of Vidarbha in the palace of the king, seated with Sunanda, and her incomparable beauty was disliked perceptibly, like the brightness of a fire enveloped in clouds of smoke. And beholding that lady of large eyes, soiled and emaciated, he decided her to be Damayanti, coming to that conclusion from various reasons. And Sudeva said, As I saw her before, this damsel is even at present. I am blessed by casting my eyes on this fair one, like Sri herself, delighting the words, resembling the full moon of unchanging youth, of well-rounded breasts, illumining all sides by her splendor, possessed of large eyes like beautiful lotuses, like unto Kamahati herself, the delight of all the worlds, like the rings of the full moon. She looketh like a lotus stalk, transplanted by adverse fortune from the Vidarbha lake and covered with miri in the process, and oppressed with grief on account of her husband, and melancholy she looketh like the night of the full moon when her who hath swallowed that luminar, or like a stream whose current hath dried up. Her plight is very much like that of a ravaged lake, with the leaves of its lotuses crushed by the trunks of elephants, and with its birds and fowls affrighted by the invasion. Indeed, this girl of a delicate frame and of lovely limbs, and deserving to dwell in a mansion decked with gems, like an uprooted lotus stalk scorched by the sun, endowed with beauty and generosity of nature, and destitute of ornaments, tog deserving of them, she looketh like the moon, new bent in heaven, covered with black clouds, destitute of comforts and luxuries, separated from loved ones and friends, she liveth in distress, supported by the hope of beholding her Lord. Verily, the husband is the best ornament of a woman, however destitute of ornaments, without her husband, beside her, this lady, talk beautiful, shineth not. It is a hard feat achieved by Nala, in that he liveth without succumbing to grief, talk separated from such a wife. Beholding this damsel, possessed of black hair and of eyes like lotus leaves, in war talk deserving of bliss, even my heart is pained. Alas, when shall this girl, graced with auspicious marks and devoted to her husband, crossing this ocean of war, regain the company of her lord, like Rohini regaining the moon? Surely the king of the Nishadihas will experience in regaining her the delight that a king deprived of his kingdom experienceth in regaining his kingdom. Equal to her in nature and age and extraction, Nala deserveth the daughter of Vidarbha, and this damsel of black eyes deserveth him. It behoveth me to comfort the queen of that hero of immeasurable prowess, and endowed with energy and might. She is eager to meet her husband. I will console this afflicted girl of face like the full moon, and suffering distress that she had never before endured, and ever meditating on her Lord. Having thus reflected on these various circumstances and signs, the Brahmana Sudeva approached Damayanti and addressed her, saying, I am Sudeva, the dear friend of thy brother. I have come here seeking thee at the desire of King Bhima. Thy father is well, and thy mother, and thy brothers, and thy son and daughter, blessed with length of days, are living in peace. Their relatives, thought alive, are almost dead on thy account, and hundreds of Brahmanas are hanging the world in search of thee. Damayanti, recognizing Sudeva, asked him respecting all her relatives and kinsmen, one after another. And, oppressed with grief, the prince of Vidarbha began to weep bitterly at the unexpected sight of Sudeva, that foremost of Brahmanas and the friend of her brother. And, beholding Damayanti weeping and conversing in private with Sudeva, Sunanda was distressed, and going to her mother informed her, saying, Saihindhi is weeping bitterly in the presence of a Brahmana. If thou likest, satisfy thyself. And thereupon the mother of the king of the hedges, issuing from the inner apartments of the palace, came to the place where the girl was with that Brahmana. Then calling Sudeva, the queen mother asked him, Whose wife is this fair one, and whose daughter? Who hath this lady of beautiful eyes been deprived of the company of her relatives and of her husband as well? And how hast thou come to know this lady fallen into such a plight? I wish to hear all this in detail from thee. Do truly relate unto me who am asking thee about this damsel of celestial beauty. Then, thus addressed by the queen mother, Sudeva, that best of Brahmanas, sat at his ease, and began to relate the true history of Damayanti. Sudeva said, There is a virtuous and illustrious ruler of the Vidarbhas, Bhima by name. This blessed lady is his daughter, and we know but the name of Damayanti. And there is a king ruling the Nishadihas, named Nala, the son of Virasena. This blessed lady is the wife of that wise and righteous monarch, defeated at dice by his brother and despoiled of his kingdom. That king, accompanied by Damayanti, went away without the knowledge of anyone. We have been wandering over the whole earth in search of Damayanti, and that girl is at last found in the house of thy son. No woman existeth that is her rival in beauty. Between the eyebrows of this ever youthful damsel there is an excellent mole from birth, resembling a lotus. Not set by us, it seems to have disappeared, covered with dust, even like the moon hid in clouds. Placed there by the Creator himself as an indication of prosperity and wealth, that mole is visibly faintly like the cloud-covered lunar crescent of the first day of the lighted fortnight, and covered as her body is with dust, her beauty hath not disappeared. Talk careless of her person, it is still manifest, and shineth like gold. And this girl, God's-like, capable of being identified by this form of hers and that mole, have been discovered by me as one discovereth a fire that is covered by its heat. Hearing these words of Sudeva, Sunanda washed the dust that covered the mole between Damayanti eyebrows, and thereupon it became visibly like the moon in the sky, just emerged from the clouds. And seeing that mole, Sunanda and the Queen Mother began to weep, and embracing Damayanti, stood silent for a while, and the Queen Mother, shedding tears as she spoke, said in gently assent, "By this thy mole, I find that thou art the daughter of my sister. Thy mother and I are both daughters of the high-souled Sudaman, the ruler of the Dasarnas. She was bestowed upon King Bhima, and I on Viravahu." A witness said, "Thy birth at our father's palace in the country of Dasarnas. My house is to thee even as thy father, and this wealth is thine as much as mine." As this, Damayanti, bowing down to her mother, sister, with a glad heart, spake unto her these words unrecognized: "I have still lived happily with thee, every want of mine satisfied, and myself cared for by thee. And happy as my stay hath been, it would without doubt be happier still. Mother, I have long been an exile. It behoveth thee, therefore, to grant me permission. My son and daughter, sent to my father's palace, are living there, deprived of their father and of their mother. How are they passing their days, stricken with sorrow? If thou wishest to do what is agreeable to me, do thou without loss of time order a vehicle, for I wish to go to the Vidarbhas." At this, the sister of mother, with a glad heart, said, "So be it." And the Queen Mother, with her son's permission, sent Damayanti in a handsome litter carried by men, protected by a large escort, and provided with food and drink and garments of the first quality. And soon enough she reached the country of the Vidarbhas, and all her relatives, rejoicing, received her with respect. And seeing her relatives, her children, both her parents, and all her maids to be well, the illustrious Damayanti worshipped the gods and Brahmanas according to the superior method, and the king, rejoiced at beholding his daughter, gave unto Sudeva 1,000 kine and much wealth and a village. And having spent that night at her father's mansion, and recovered from fatigue, Damayanti addressed her mother, saying, "If thou wishest me to live, I tell thee truth. Do thou endeavor to bring Nala, that hero among men." Thus addressed by Damayanti, the venerable queen became filled with sorrow, and bathed in tears, she was unable to give an answer. And beholding her in that plight, all the inmates of the inner apartments broke out into exclamation of "Oh!" and "Alas!" and began to cry bitterly. And then the queen addressed the mighty monarch Bhima, saying, "Thy daughter Damayanti mourneth on account of her husband. Nay, banishing away all bashfulness, she hath herself declared her mind to me. Let thy men strive to find out the right use." Thus informed by her, the king sent the Brahmanas under him in all directions, saying, "Exert ye to discover Nala." And those Brahmanas, commanded by the ruler of the Vidarbhas, appeared before Damayanti, and told her of the journey they were about to undertake. And Bhima daughter spake unto them, saying, "Do ye cry in every realm and in every assembly, where hast thou gone cutting off half of my garment, and deserting the dear and devoted wife asleep in the forest? And that girl, as commanded by thee, stayeth expecting thee, clad in half a piece of cloth, and burning with grief. He leant towards and answered her who incessantly weepeth for that grief. This and more ye will say, that he may be inclined to pity me. Assisted by the wind, fire consumeth the forest. The wife is always to be protected and maintained by the husband. Why then, good as thou art and acquainted with every duty, hast thou neglected both the duties? Possessed of fame and wisdom, and lineage, and kindness, why hast thou been unkind? I fear this is owing to the loss of my good luck. Therefore, have pity on me. I have heard it from thee that kindness is the right virtue. Speaking, if anybody answereth you, that person should be our means. Be know, and ye should learn who he is, and where he dwelleth. And ye foremost of his generate ones, do ye bring me the word of him who, hearing this your speech, will chance to answer. Ye should act with such care, that no one may know the words ye utter to be at my command, nor that ye will come back to me. And ye should learn whether that answer is in wealth, or poor, or destitute of power, in fact, all about him. Thus instructed by Damayanti, the Brahmana set out in all directions in search of Nala, overtaken with such disaster. And the Brahmanas searched for him in cities and kingdoms and villages and retreats of ascetics and places inhabited by cowherds, and wherever they went, they recited the speeches that Damayanti had directed them to do. After a long time had passed away, a Brahmana named Parnada returned to the city, and said unto the daughter of Bhima, "Seeking Nala, the king of Nishadhas, I came to the seat of Ayodhya, and appeared before the son of Vihangasura, and I repeated those words of thine. The presence of the blessed Hituparna. Hearing them, neither that ruler of men nor his courtiers answered anything. I uttered them repeatedly. Then, after I had been dismissed by the monarch, I was accosted by a person in the service of Hituparna, named Vahuka, and Vahuka is the chariot of that king of unsightly appearance, and possessed of short arms, and he is skillful in driving with speed, and well acquainted with the culinary art, and singing frequently, and weeping again and again. He inquired about my welfare, and afterwards said these words: "Chaste woman, our talk, fallen into distress, yet protect themselves, and thus certainly secure heaven. Our talk, they may be deserted by their lords, they do not yet become angry on that account, for women that are chaste lead their lives, encased in the armor of virtuous behavior. It behoveth her not to be angry, sighs he that deserted her, was overwhelmed with calamity, and deprived of every bliss. A beauteous and virtuous woman should not be angry with one that was deprived by birth of his garment, while striving to procure sustenance, and who is being consumed with grief, whether treated well or ill. Such a wife should never indulge in it, beholding her husband in that plight, despoiled of kingdom, and destitute of prosperity, oppressed with hunger, and overwhelmed with calamity. Hearing these words of his, I have speedily come here. Thou hast now heard all. Do what thou thinkest proper, and inform the king of it." Having heard these words of Parnada, Damayanti with tearful eyes came to her mother, and spake unto her in private. "King Bhishma should not by any means be made acquainted with my purpose. In thy presence will I employ that best of Brahmanas, Sudeva. If thou desirest my welfare, act in such a way that King Bhishma may not know my purpose. Let Sudeva without delay go hence to the seat of Ayodhya, for the purpose of bringing Nala." Having performed the same auspicious rites, by virtue of which he had speedily brought me unto the midst of friends, with these words, after Parnada had recovered from fatigue, the prince of Vidarbha worshipped him with profuse wealth, and said, "When Nala will come here, I will bestow on thee wealth in abundance again. Thou hast done me immense service, which none else in thee can do me, for I shall speedily regain my lord." And thus addressed by Damayanti, that high-minded Brahmana comforted her, uttering benedictory words of auspicious import, and then went home, regarding his mission to have been successful. And after he had gone away, Damayanti, oppressed with grief and distress, calling Sudeva, addressed him in the presence of her mother, saying, "Go thou to the seat of Ayodhya, strength as a bird, and tell King Hituparna, living there, these words: Bhishma Doctor Damayanti will hold another Sivayamvara. All the kings and princes are going thither. Calculating the time, I find that the ceremony will take place tomorrow. If it is possible for thee, go thither without delay. Tomorrow, after the sun hath risen, she will choose a second husband, as she doth not know whether the heroic Nala liveth or not." And addressed by her, Sudeva set out, and he said unto Hituparna all that he had been directed to say. Having heard the words of Sudeva, King Hituparna, soothing Vahuka with gentle words, said, "Thou art well skilled in training and guiding horses. If it pleases thee, I intend to go to Damayanti Sivayamvara in course of a single day." Thus addressed by that king, Nala felt his heart to be bursting in grief, and the high-souled king seemed to burn in sorrow, and he talked within himself. Perhaps Damayanti in doing this is blinded by sorrow. Perhaps she hath conceived this magnificent scheme for my sake. Alas, cruel is the deed that the innocent prince of Vidarbha intends to do, having been deceived by my sinful and low self of little sense. It is seen in the world that the nature of woman is inconstant. My offence hath been great. Perhaps she is acting because she hath no longer in love for me owing to my separation from her. Indeed, that girl of slender waist, afflicted with grief on my account and with despair, will not certainly do anything of the kind, when especially she is the mother of offspring. However, whether this is true or false, I shall ascertain with certitude by going thither. I will, therefore, accomplish Hituparna and my own purpose. Having resolved thus in his mind, Vahuka, with his heart in sorrow, spake unto King Hituparna with joined hands, saying, I bow to thy behest, and I will go to the seat of the Vidarbhas in a single day. Then, at the command of the royal son of Vihangasura, Vahuka went to the stables and began to examine the horses. And repeatedly urged by Hituparna to make haste, Vahuka, after much scrutiny and careful deliberation, selected some steeds that were lean-fleshed, yet strong and capable of a long journey, and endowed with energy and strength of high breed and docility, free from inauspicious marks, with wide nostrils and swelling cheeks, free from faults as regards the 10 hairy curs born in the Sindhu, and fleet as the winds. And seeing those horses, the king said somewhat angrily, What is this that thou wishest to do? Thou shouldst not jest with us. How can these horses of mine, weak in strength and brief, carry us? And how shall we be able to go this long way by help of these? Vahuka replied, Each of these horses bears one coal on his forehead, 2 on his temples, 4 on his sides, 4 on his chest, and on his back. Without doubt, these steeds will be able to go to the country of the Vidarbhas. If thou thinkest of choosing others, point them out, and I shall yoke them for thee. Hituparna rejoined, Thou art versed in the science of horses, and art skilful. Do thou speedily yoke those that thou thinkest to be able. Thereupon the skilful Nala yoked upon the car 4 excellent steeds of good breed, that were, besides, docile and fleet. And after the steeds had been yoked, the king, without loss of time, mounted upon the car. When those best of horses fell down upon the ground on their knees, then that foremost of men, the blessed King Nala, began to soothe the horses, and with energy and strength, and raising them up with the hands, and making the charioteer Varsneya sit on the car, he prepared to set out with great speed. And those best of steeds, duly urged by Vahuka, rose to the sky, confounding the occupant of the vehicle, and beholding those steeds gifted with the speed of the wind, thus drawing the car, the blessed king of Ayodhya was exceedingly amazed, and noticing the hero of the car and the management of the steeds, Varsneya reflected upon Vahuka's skill in guiding horses, and he thought, Is he Matali, the charioteer of the king of the celestials? I find the same magnificent indications in the heroic Vahuka, hath Salihotra vested in the science of horses, taking this human shape beautiful? Is it King Nala, the seducer of hostile towns, that hath come here? It may be that this Vahuka knoweth the science that Nala knoweth, for I perceive that the knowledge of Vahuka is equal to that of Nala. Further, Vahuka and Nala are of the same age. This one, again, may not be Nala of high prowess, somebody of equal knowledge. Illustrious persons, however, walk this earth in disguise in consequence of misfortune, or agreeably to the ordinance of the scriptures. That this person is of unsightly appearance need not change my opinion, for Nala, I think, may even be despoiled of his personal features. In respect of age, this one equals Nala. There is difference, however, in persona, appearance. Vahuka, again, is endowed with every accomplishment. I think, therefore, he is Nala. Having thus reasoned long in his mind, Varsneya, the charioteer of the righteous Nala, became absorbed in thought, and that foremost of kings, Rituparna, beholding the skill of Vahuka in equestrian science, experienced great delight along with his charioteer, Varsneya, and thinking of Vahuka application and ardor and the manner of his holding the hands, the king felt exceedingly glad. Like a bird coursing through the sky, Nala soon crossed rivers and mountains and woods and lakes, and while the car was coursing thus, that conqueror of hostile cities, the royal son of Vihangasura, saw his upper garment drop down on the ground, and as soon as his garment had dropped down, the high-minded monarch, without loss of time, told Nala, I intend to recover it. He tamed these steeds and went with exceeding swiftness until Varsneya bringeth back my garment. Thereupon Nala replied unto him, the seed is dropped down far away. We have travelled on Yojana thence, therefore it is incapable of being recovered. After Nala had addressed him thus, the royal son of Vihangasura came upon a Vibhitaka tree, with fruits in the forest. And seeing that tree, the king hastily said to Vahuka, do thou behold my high proficiency in calculation? Our men do not know everything. There is no one that is versed in every science or art. Knowledge in its entirety is not found in any one person. The leaves and fruits of this tree that are lying on the ground respectively exceed those that are on it by 101. The 2 branches of the tree have 50 millions of leaves and 2095 fruits. Do thou examine these 2 branches and other boughs. Thereupon, staying the car, Vahuka addressed the king, saying, Thou takest credit to thyself in a matter which is beyond my perception. I will ascertain it by the direct evidence of my senses, by cutting down the Vibhitaka. When I actually count, it will no longer be matter of speculation. Therefore, in thy presence, I will hew down this Vibhitaka. I do not know whether it be not. In thy presence, I will count the fruits and leaves. Let Varsneya hold the hands of the horses for a while. Unto the charioteer the king replied, There is no time to lose. Vahuka answered with humility, Stay thou a short space, or if thou art in a hurry, go then, making Varsneya thy charioteer. The road lies direct and even, and at this, soothing Vahuka, Rituparna said, Thou art the only charioteer, there is none other in this world, and It is through thy help that I expect to go to the Vidarbhas. I place myself in thy hands. It behoveth thee not to cause an obstacle. And whatever thy wish, I will grant it, if taking me to the country of the Vidarbhas today, thou makest me see the sunrise. At this Vahuka answered him, saying, after having counted Vibhitaka, I shall proceed to Vidarbha. Do thou agree to my words? Then the king reluctantly told him, count, and on counting the leaves and fruits of a portion of this branch, thou wilt be satisfied of the truth of my assertion. And thereupon Vahuka speedily alighted from the car and felled that tree. And struck with amazement upon finding the fruits, after calculation, to be what the king had said, he addressed the king, saying, this thy power is wonderful. I desire to know the art by which thou hast ascertained all this. And at this the king, intent upon proceeding speedily, said unto Vahuka, know that I am proficient at dice, besides being versed in numbers. And Vahuka said unto him, impart unto me this knowledge, and take from me my knowledge of horses. And the king Rituparna, having regard to the importance of the act that depend upon Vahuka goodwill, and tempted by the horse lord, said, so be it. As solicited by thee, receive this science of dice from me, and let my equine science remain with thee in trust. And saying this, Rituparna imparted unto Nala the science. And Nala, upon becoming acquainted with the science of dice, Kali came out of his body, incessantly vomiting from his mouth the virulent poison of Karkotaka. And when Kali, afflicted, came out, the fire of that curse left Kali. Indeed, long had been the time for which the king had been afflicted by Kali, as if he were of unregenerate soul. And Nala, the ruler of the Nishadhas, in wrath, was bent upon cursing Kali, when the latter, frightened and trembling, said with joined hands, control thy wrath, I will handle thee, illustrious. Indrasena mother had formerly cursed me in anger, when she had been deserted by thee. Ever since that time, undergoing sore affliction, I resided in thee. Miserably and burning night and day, with the venom of the prince of snakes, I seek thy protection. If thou dost not curse me, who am afflicted, and seek thy protection, then those men that will attentively recite thy history shall be even free from fear on my account. And thus addressed by Kali, King Nala controlled his wrath, and thereupon the frightened Kali speedily entered into the Vibhitaka tree, and while the Kali was conversing with Nishadha, he was invisibly to others, and delivered from his afflictions. And having counted the fruits of that tree, the king, filled with great joy and of high energy, mounted on the car and proceeded with energy, urging those fleet horses. And from the touch of Kali, the Vibhitaka tree from that hour fell into disrepute. And Nala, with a glad heart, began to urge those foremost of steeds, which sprang into the air once and again, like creatures endowed with wings. And the illustrious monarch drove in the direction of the Vidarbhas, and after Nala had gone far away, Kali returned to his abode, and abandoned by Kali, that lord of earth, the royal Nala became freed from calamity, though he did not assume his native form. After Rituparna, of prowess incapable of being baffled, had in the evening arrived at the seat of the Vidarbhas, the people brought unto King Bhima the tidings. And at the invitation of Bhima, the king entered the seat of Kundina, filling with the arrow of his car all the 10 points, directed and transverse of the horizon. And the steeds of Nala that were in that seat heard that sound, and hearing it, they became delighted as they used to be in the presence of Nala himself. And Damayanti heard the sound of that car driven by Nala, like the deep roar of the clouds in the rain season. And Bhima and the steeds regarded the clatter of that car to be like that which they used to hear in days of yore, when King Nala himself used his own steeds, and the peacocks on the terraces, and the elephants in the stables, and the horses. I heard the hero of Hituparna car, and hearing the sound like the roar of the clouds, the elephants and the peacocks began to utter their cries, facing that direction, and filled with delight such as they experience when they hear the actual roar of the clouds. And Damayanti said, because the arrow of his car, filling the whole earth, gladdens my heart, it must be King Nala. If I do not see Nala of face bright as the moon, that hero with countless victories, I shall certainly die. If I am not clasped today in that hero, thrilling embrace, I shall certainly cease to be. If Naishadha, with voice deep as that of the clouds, doth not come to me today, I shall enter into a pit of golden brilliance. If that foremost of kings, powerful as a lion, and gifted with the strength of an infuriated elephant, doth not present himself before me, I shall certainly cease to live. I do not remember a single untruth in him, or a single wrong done by him to others. Never hath he spoken an untruth, even in jest. Nala is exalted and forgiving and heroic and magnificent and superior to our other kings, and faithful to his marriage vow, and like unto a eunuch in respect of other females. Night and day dwelling upon his perfections, my heart, in absence of that dear one, is about to burst in grief. Thus bewailing as if devoid of sense, Damayanti ascended the terrace with the desire of seeing the righteous Nala. And in the yard of the central mansion she beheld King Hituparna on the car with Varsneya and Vahuka, and Varsneya and Vahuka descending from that excellent vehicle, unyoked the steeds, and kept the vehicle itself in a proper place. And King Hituparna, descending from the car, presented himself before King Bhima, possessed of terrible prowess, and Bhima received him with great respect, for in the absence of a proper occasion, a great person cannot be had. And honored by Bhima, King Hituparna looked about him again and again, saw no traces of the Svayamvara. And the ruler of the Vidarbhas, approaching Hituparna, said, Welcome, what is the occasion of this thy visit? And King Bhima asked this without knowing that Hituparna had come to obtain the hand of his daughter. And King Hituparna, of unbaffled prowess and gifted with intelligence, saw that there were no other kings or princes, nor did he hear and talk relating to the Svayamvara, nor saw any concourse of Brahmanas. And at this the king of Kosala reflected a while, and at length said, I have come here to pay my respects to thee. And the king Bhima was struck with astonishment, and reflected upon the cause of Hituparna coming, having passed over 100 yojanas. And he reflected that passing by other sovereigns, and leaving behind him innumerable countries, he should come simply to pay his respects to me. is scarcely the reason of this arrival. What he assigneth to be the cause of his coming appeareth to be a trifle. However, I shall learn the true reason in the future. And although King Bhishma thought he did not dismiss Hituparna summarily, said unto him again and again, Hast thou art weary? And honored thus by the pleased Bhishma, King Hituparna was satisfied, and with a delighted heart he went to his appointed quarters, followed by the servants of the royal household. After Hituparna had gone away with Varsneya, Vahuka took the care of the stables, and there freeing the steeds, and handing them according to rule, and soothing them himself, sat down on the side of the car. Meanwhile, the prince of Vidharva, Damayanti, afflicted with grief, having beheld the royal son of Vihangasura and Varsneya of the Sutta haste, and Vahuka in that guise, asked herself, Whose is this Guerrero? It was loud as that of Nala. I do not see the ruler of the Nishadihas. Certainly Varsneya hath learnt the art from Nala, and it is for this that the Rero of the car driven by him hath been even like that of Nala. Is Hituparna equally skilled with Nala, that the Rero of his car seemeth to be like that of Nala? In reflecting thus, the blessed and beauteous girl sent a female messenger in search of Nishada. Damayanti said, Go thou and learn who that charioteer is that sitteth by the car, unsightly and possessed of short arms. Courteously and with soft words make thou the usual inquiries of courtesy, and learn our particular truly, having regard to the feeling of satisfaction my mind experienceth, and the delight my heart feeleth. I am greatly afraid this one is King Nala himself, and having inquired after his welfare, thou shalt speak unto him the words of Parnada, and understand the reply he may make thereto. Thus instructed that female messenger, going courteously, while the blessed Damayanti watched from the terrace, addressed Vahuka in these words, Thou art welcome. I wish thee happiness. Hear now the words of Damayanti. When did ye all set out, and with what object have ye come hither? Tell us truly, for the prince of Vidarbha wisheth to hear it. Thus addressed, Vahuka answered, the illustrious king of Kosala had heard from a Brahmana that the second Sivayanvara of Damayanti would take place, and hearing it, he hath come here, by the help of excellent steeds fleet as the wind, and capable of going 100 yojanas. I am his charioteer. Cassini then asked, Whence doth the third among you come, and whose is he, and whose son art thou, and how hast thou come to do this work? Thus questioned, Vahuka replied, He was the charioteer of the virtuous Nala, and known to all by the name of Varsneya. After Nala had left his kingdom, he came to the son of Vihangasura. I am skilled in horse lore, and have therefore been appointed a charioteer. Indeed, King Hituparna hath himself chosen me as his charioteer and cook. At this Cassini rejoined, Perhaps Varsneya knoweth where King Nala hath gone. He may have spoken to thee. Vahuka then said, Having brought hither the children of Nala of excellent deeds, Varsneya went away whither he listed. He doth not know where Nishadha is, nor doth anybody else know of Nala whereabouts. For the king wandereth over the world, in disguise and despoiled of beauty. Nala self unknoweth Nala. Nala never discovereth his marks of identity anywhere. Thus addressed, Cassini returned. The Brahmana that had before this gone to Ayodhya had repeatedly said these words suitably to female lips. Where hast thou gone cutting off half my piece of cloth and deserting me, his dear and devoted wife? I sleep in the woods. And she herself, as commanded by him, waiteth, expecting him clad in half a garment, and burning day and night in grief. Do thou relent towards her that weepeth ceaselessly for that calamity, and do thou give her an answer. Do thou speak the words agreeably to her, for the blameless unpanteth to hear them. Hearing these words of the Brahmana, thou didst formally give a reply. The prince of Vidarbha again wisheth to hear the words thou didst then say. Hearing these words of Cassini, Nala's heart was pained, and his eyes filled with tears, and repressing his sorrow, the king, who was burning in grief, said again these words in a sense shocked with tears. Chaste women, talk overtaken by calamity, yet protect themselves, and thereby secure heaven. Women that are chaste, deserted by their lords, never become angry, continue to live, cased in virtue male. Deserted by one fallen into calamity, bereft of sense, and despoiled of bliss, it behoveth her not to be angry. A virtuous lady should not be angry with one that was deprived by birth of his garment, while striving to procure sustenance, and who is burning in misery. Whether treated well or ill, she would never be angry, seeing her husband in that plight, despoiled of his kingdom, bereft of prosperity, oppressed with hunger, and overwhelmed with calamity. And while speaking thus, Nala, oppressed with grief, could not restrain his tears, began to weep, and thereupon Cassini went back to Damayanti and acquainted her with everything about that conversation, as well as that outburst of grief. Hearing everything, Damayanti became oppressed with grief, and suspecting the person to be Nala, said unto Cassini, Go thou again and examine Vahuka, and staying in silence at his side, mark thou his conduct. And whenever he happens to do anything skillful, do thou observe well his act while accomplishing it, and whenever he may ask water or fire with the view of offering him obstruction, thou shalt be in no hurry to give it. And marking everything about his behavior, come thou and tell me, and whatever woman or superwoman thou seest in Vahuka, together with anything else, should all be reported unto me. And thus addressed by Damayanti, Cassini went away, and having marked the conduct of that person vested in horse lore, she came back, and she related unto Damayanti all that had happened, indeed everything of woman and superwoman that she had witnessed in Vahuka. And Cassini said, A person of such control over the elements I have never before seen or heard of. Whenever he cometh to low passage, he never stoppeth down. Seeing him, the passage itself groweth in height, that he may pass through it easily, and at his approach, impassably, narrow halls open wide. King Bhishma had sent various kinds of meat, of diverse animals, for Hituparna food, and many vessels had been placed there for washing the meat. And as he looked upon them, those vessels became filled, and having washed the meat, as he set himself to cook, he took up a handful of grass and held it in the sun, when fire blazed up on a sudden. Beholding this marvel, I have come hither amazed. Further, I have witnessed in him another great wonder. He touched fire and was not burnt, and at his will water failing flowed in a stream. And I have witnessed another great wonder still. He took up some flowers, began to press them slowly with his hands, and pressed by his hand. The flowers did not lose their original forms. On the contrary, became gayer and more odorous than before. Having beheld wonderful things, I have come hither with speed. Hearing of these acts of the virtuous Nala, and discovering him from his behavior, Damayanti considered him as already recovered, and from these indications, suspecting that Vahuka was her husband, Damayanti once more weepingly addressed Kesini in soft words, saying, "Go thou once more and bring from the kitchen, without Vahuka knowledge, some meat that hath been boiled and dressed." Thus commanded Kesini, ever bent on doing what was agreeably to Damayanti, went to Vahuka, and taking some hot meat, came back without loss of time, and Kesini gave that meat unto Damayanti. And Damayanti, who had formerly often partaken of meat dressed by Nala, tasted the meat that was brought by her handmaid, and she thereupon decided Vahuka to be Nala, and wept aloud in grief of heart. And overwhelmed with grief, and washing her face, she sent her 2 children with Kesini, and Vahuka, who was the king in disguise, recognizing Indrasena with her brother, advanced hastily, and embracing them, took them up on his lap, and taking up his children, like unto the children of the celestials, he began to weep aloud in sonorous accents, his heart oppressed with great sorrow. And after having repeatedly betrayed his agitation, Naishadha suddenly left children, and addressed Kesini, saying, "These twins are very like my own children. Beholding them unexpectedly, I shed tears. If thou comest to me frequently, people may think evil, for we are guests from another land. Therefore, go at thy ease." Beholding the agitation of the virtuous and wise Nala, Kesini returned unto Damayanti, and related everything unto her. And thereupon Damayanti, with a sorrowful heart, and eager to behold Nala, again dispatched Kesini to her mother, asking her to say on her behalf, suspecting Vahuka to be Nala, "I have tried him in various ways. My doubt now on relates to his appearance. I intend to examine him myself. Either let him enter the palace, or give me permission to go to him, and arrange this with the knowledge of my father, or without it." And thus addressed by Damayanti, that late communicated unto Bhishma the intention of his daughter, and upon learning it, the king gave his consent. And having obtained the consent both of her father and mother, Damayanti caused Nala to be brought to her apartments, and as soon as she saw Damayanti, unexpectedly King Nala was overwhelmed with grief and sorrow, and bathed in tears. And that best of women, Damayanti, upon beholding King Nala in that condition, was sorely afflicted with grief, and herself clad in a piece of headcloth, and wearing matted locks, and covered with dirt and dust. Damayanti then addressed Vahuka, saying, "Hast thou ever seen any person acquainted with duty, who hath gone away, deserting his sleeping wife in the forest, who, except the victus Nala, could go away, deserting in the woods his dear and unoffending wife, overcome with fatigue. What offense was our guilt in the eyes of that monarch since my early youth, that he should go away deserting me in the woods while I sleep, overcome with fatigue? Why should we whom I formerly chose in preference to the gods themselves abandon his ever devoted and loving wife, who had become the mother of his children? Before the fire and in presence of the celestials he had taken my hand, vowing, "Verily I will be thine." Where was that vow when he deserted me? While Damayanti was saying out these, tears of sorrow began to flow plentiful from her eyes, and beholding her thus afflicted with grief, Nala, shedding tears black as those of the gazelle, with extremities of head dish, hui, said, "Neither the loss of my kingdom, nor my desertion of thee was my act, both were due to Kali, and, lamenting for me day and night, and overcome with sorrow, thou hast in the woods cursed Kali, and he began to dwell in my body, burning in consequence of thy curse. Indeed, burning with thy curse, he lived within me, like fire within fire, that our sorrows might terminate. That wretch have I overcome by my observances and austerities. The sinful wretch have already left me, and it is for this that I have come hither. My presence here is for thy sake. I have no other object. Can any other woman, forsaking her loving and devoted husband, ever choose a second lord like thee? At the command of the king, messengers are hanging this entire earth, saying, "Be my daughter will of her own accord choose a second husband worthy of her." Immediately on hearing this, the son of Vihangasura have arrived here. Hearing these lamentations of Nala, Damayanti, frightened and trembling, said, with joined hands, "It behoveth thee not to suspect any fault in me. Passing over the celestials themselves, I chose thee as my lord. It was to bring thee hither that the Brahmanas had gone out in all directions, even to all the sides of the horizon, singing my woes in the form of ballads. At last, a learned Brahmana named Parnada had found thee in Kosala in the palace of Hituparna. When thou hadst returned a fit answer to those woes of his, it was then that I devised this scheme to recover thee. Except thee, there is no one in this world who in one day can clear 100 yojanas with horses. Touching thy feet, I can swear truly that I have not, even in thought, committed any sin. May they are witnessing ere that goeth through this world take my life. If I have committed any sin, may the sun that ever goeth through the sky take my life. If I have committed any sin, may the one that dwelleth within every creature as a witness take my life. If I have committed any sin, let the three gods that sustain the triple worlds in their entirety declare truly, or let them forsake me today. And thus, addressed by her, the wind god said from the sky, "I tell thee truly that she hath done no wrong, well guarding the honor of thy family, hath enhanced it. These we are the witness, as we have been her protectors for these 3 years. It is for thy sake that she hath devised this unrivaled scheme, for except thee, none on earth is capable of travelling in a single day 100 yojanas. Thou hast obtained Bhishma doctor, and she hath obtained thee. Thou needst not entertain any suspicious. Be united with thy partner. And after the wind god had said this, a floral shower fell there, and the celestial kettle drum began to play, and auspicious breezes began to blow. And beholding those wonders, King Nala cast away all his doubts in respect of Damayanti. And then that Lord of Earth, remembering the King of Serpents, wore that poor garment and regained his native form. And beholding her righteous Lord in his own form, Bhishma, doctor of faultless limbs, embraced him, and began to weep aloud. And King Nala embraced Bhishma, doctor, devoted to him as before, and his children, and experienced great delight. And burying her face in his bosom, the beauteous Damayanti of large eyes began to sigh heavily, remembering her griefs, and overwhelmed with sorrow. The tiger among men stood for some time, clasping the dust-covered Damayanti of sweet smiles, and the Queen Mother then, with a glad heart, told Bhishma all that had passed between Nala and Damayanti. And the mighty monarch answered, Let Nala pass this day in peace. Tomorrow I shall see him after his bath and prayers, with Damayanti by his side. And they passed that night pleasantly, in relating to each other the past incidents of their life in the forest, and with hearts filled with joy, the prince of Vidarbha and Nala began to pass their days in the palace of King Bhishma, intent upon making each other happy. And it was in the 4th year that Nala was reunited with his wife, and all his desires gratified. Once more experienced the highest bliss, and Damayanti rejoiced exceedingly in having recovered her lord, even as fields of tender plants on receiving a shower. And Bhishma, doctor, thus recovering her lord, obtained her wish, and blazed forth in beauty, her weariness gone, her anxieties dispelled, and herself swelling with joy, ever like a night that is lit by the bright disk of the moon. Having passed that night, King Nala, decked in ornaments and with Damayanti by his side, presented himself in due time before the king. And Nala saluted his father-in-law with becoming humility, and after him the fair Damayanti paid her respects to her father. And the exalted Bhishma, with great joy, received him as a son, and honoring him duly, along with his devoted wife, comforted them in proper words. And duly accepting the homage handed unto him, King Nala offered his father-in-law his services as became him. And seeing Nala arrived, the citizens were in great joy. And there arose in the seat a loud uproar of delight, and the citizens decorated the seat with flags and standards and garlands of flowers, and the streets were watered and decked in floral wreaths and other ornaments. And at their gates citizens peeled flowers, and their temples and shrines were all adorned with flowers. And Rituparna heard that Vahuka had already been united with Damayanti, and the king was glad to hear of all this. And calling unto him King Nala, he asked his forgiveness, and the intelligent Nala asked Rituparna forgiveness, showing diverse reasons. And that foremost of speakers versed in the truth, King Rituparna, after being thus honored by Nala, said, with a countenance expressive of wonder, this was unto the ruler of the Nishadihas. By good fortune it is that regaining the company of thy own wife, thou hast obtained happiness. while dwelling in disguise at my house. I hope I did not wrong thee in any way. If knowingly or unknowingly I have done thee any wrong, it behoveth thee to forgive me. Hearing this, Nala replied, Thou hast not done me ever little injury, and if thou hast, it hath not awakened my ear. For surely thou shalt be forgiven by me. Thou wert formerly my friend, and thou art related to me. Henceforth I shall find greater delight in thee. With all my desires gratified, I lived happily in thy abode. In fact, more happily there than in my own house. This thy house, Lord, is in my keeping. If thou wishest, I will make it over to thee. Saying this, Nishadha gave unto Hituparna that science, and the latter took it with the ordained heats. And the royal son of Vihangasura, having obtained the mysteries of equestrian science, and having given unto the ruler of the Nishadhas the mysteries of dice, went to his own city, employing another person for his chariota. And after Hituparna had gone, King Nala did not stay long in the seat of Kundila. The ruler of the Nishadhas, having dwelt there for a month, set out from that seat with Bhima permission, and accompanied by all a few flowers for the country of the Nishadhas, with a single car with Inhui, 16 elephants, 50 horses, and 600 infantry. That illustrious king caused the earth itself to tremble, entered without loss of a moment, and swelling with haste. And the mighty son of Virasena, approaching his brother Puskara, said unto him, We will play again, for I have earned vast wealth. Let Damayanti and all else that I have be my stake, and let thy kingdom be thy stake. Let the play begin again. This is my certain determination. Blessed be thou. Let us stake all we have along with our lives. Having won over the accrued another wealth or kingdom, it is a high duty, says the ordinance, to stake it when the owner demands. If thou dost not relish play with dice, let the play with weapons begin. Let me or thyself have peace by single combat. That this ancestral kingdom should, under all circumstances and by any means, be recovered. There is the authority of sages for holding. And choose thou one of these two things, gambling with dice or bending the bow in battle. Thus addressed by Nishadha, Puskara, sure of his own success, Log-healing answered that monarch, saying, It is by good fortune that thou hast earned wealth again to stake. It is by good fortune that Damayanti ill luck hath at last come to an end, and it is by good fortune that thou art still alive with thy wife. It is evident that Damayanti, adorned with this wealth of thine that I will win, will wait upon me like an Apsara in heaven upon Indra. I daily recollect thee, and I am even waiting for thee. Sighs, I derive no pleasure from gambling with those that are not connected with me by blood, winning over today the beauteous Damayanti of faultless features. I shall regard myself fortunate. Indeed, says she, it is that hath ever dwelt in my heart. Hearing these words of that incoherent braggart, Nala in anger desired to cut off his head with a scimitar. With a smile, however, through his eyes were had in anger, King Nala said, Let us play. Why do you speak now? Having vanquished me, you can say anything you like. Then the play commenced between Puskara and Nala, And blessed be Nala, who at a single throw won his wealth and treasuries back along with the life of his brother that had been stacked. And the king, having won, smiling said unto Puskara, "This whole kingdom without a thorn in its side is now undisturbedly mine. And thou canst not now even look at the prince of Vidarbha with all thy family. Thou art now reduced to the position of her slave. My former defeat at thy hands was not due to an act of thine. Thou knowest it not, that it was Kali who did it all. I shall not, therefore, impute to thee the faults of others. Live happily as thou choosest. I grant thee thy life. I grant thee thy portion, along with all necessaries. And without doubt, my affection towards thee is now the same as before. My fraternal love for thee will never know any diminution. Thou art my brother. Live thou for 100 years. And Nala of unbaffled prowess, having comforted his brother, thus gave him permission to go to his own town, having embraced him repeatedly. And Puskara himself, thus comforted by the ruler of the Nishadihas, saluted that righteous king and addressed him, saying these words with joined hands: "Let thy fame be immortal, and live thou happily for 10,000 years. Thou who grantest me life and refuge." And entertained by the king Puskara, dwelt there for a month, and then went to his own town, accompanied by large force and many obedient servants, and his own kindred, his heart filled with joy. And that bull among men all the while blazed forth in beauty of person like a second sun. And the blessed ruler of the Nishadihas, having established Puskara and made him wealthy, and freed him from troubles, entered his richly decorated palace. And the ruler of the Nishadihas, having entered his palace, comforted the citizens, and all the citizens and the subjects from the country jubilated in joy. And the people headed by the officers of state said with joined hands: "We are truly glad today throughout the seat of the country. We have obtained today a ruler like the gods, their chief of 100 sacrifices." After the festivities had commenced in the seat that was full of joy and without anxiety of any kind, the king with a large force brought Damayanti, and her father too, that slayer of hostile heroes, Bhishma of terrible prowess and immeasurably so, sent his daughter, having honored her duly. And upon the arrival of the prince of Vidarbha, accompanied by her son and daughter, King Nala began to pass his days in joy like the chief of the celestials in the gardens of Nandana. And the king of undying fame, having regained his kingdom and becoming illustrious among monarchs of the island of Jambu, began once more to rule it. And he duly performed numerous sacrifices with abundant gifts to Brahmanas. Thou wilt with thy kindred and relatives blaze forth in effulgence soon. For it was thus that subjugator of hostile cities, King Nala had fallen into distress along with his wife in consequence of dice. And Nala suffered such dear woe all alone and recovered his prosperity, whereas thou, with heart fixed on virtue, art sporting in joy in this great forest, accompanied by the brothers and Krishna, when thou art mixing daily with blessed Brahmanas vested in the Vedas and their branches, thou hast little cause for sorrow. This history, besides of the Naga Karkotaka, of Damayanti, of Nala, and of that royal sage Rituparna, is destructive of evil. This history, destructive of the influence of Kali, is capable of comforting persons like thee when they listen to it, and reflecting upon the uncertainty of human exertion, It behoveth thee not to joy or grieve at prosperity or adversity. Having listened to this history, he comforted, and yielded not to grief. It behoveth thee not to pine under calamity. In thee, men of self-possession have looking upon the caprice of destiny and the fruitlessness of exertion, never suffer themselves to be depressed. They that will repeatedly recite this noble history of Nala, and that will hear it recited, will never be touched by adversity. He that listeneth to this old and excellent history hath all his purpose crowned with success, and without doubt obtaineth fame, besides sons and grandsons and animals, a high position among men, and health and joy, and the fear that thou entertainest I will for once dispel. I know the science of dice in its entirety. I am gratified with thee. Take this lore, I will tell unto thee. King Yudhishthira then with a glad heart saith unto Vrihadasva, I desire to learn the science of dice from thee. Drish then gave this lore unto the high-souled son of Pandu, and having given it unto him, that great ascetic went to the sacred waters of Hayasirsiha for a bath. And after Vrihadasva had gone away, Yudhishthira of firm vows heard from Brahmanas and ascetics that came to him from various directions, and from places of pilgrimage and mountains and forests, that Arjuna of high intelligence and capable of drawing the bow with his left hand was still engaged in the austerities of ascetic penances, living upon air alone. And he heard that the mighty Ahmed Partiha was engaged in such fierce asceticism that none else before him had ever been engaged in such penances, and the Dhananjaya, the son of Pritha, engaged in ascetic austerities with regulated vows and fixed mind, and observing the vow of perfect silence, was, he heard, like the blazing god of justice himself in his embodied form. And the son of Pandu, hearing that his dear brother Jaya, the son of Kunti, was engaged in such asceticism in the great forest, began to grieve for him, and with a heart burning in grief, the elder son of Pandu, seeking consolation in that mighty forest, held converse with the Brahmanas, possessed of various knowledge, who were living with him there.